Ryan Mercer watched the man's hand clamp down on the woman's wrist, knuckles white with pressure that made her flinch. The Seattle cafe chatter died as customers pretended not to notice. Ryan had exactly 3 seconds to decide if he'd stay invisible, like he'd trained himself to do since his wife died, or step into someone else's crisis. The woman's eyes found his across the room, desperate and pleading. Ryan's coffee cup hit the table harder than he intended. His daughter was safe at school. This stranger wasn't safe anywhere. He stood, heart hammering, knowing that some choices you can't take back. What Ryan didn't know was that this terrified woman controlled a billion-dollar empire, and that his intervention would shatter the careful walls he'd built around his quiet, grief-guarded life. Before we dive into this story, I want to invite you on this journey with me. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you enjoy what unfolds here, hit that like button. It genuinely helps me bring you more content like this. Now, let's begin. The morning had started like every other Wednesday in Ryan Mercer's carefully ordered life. Wake at 5:30. Pack Mia's lunch with the crust cut off her sandwich because she was 8 and particular about bread. Make sure her homework folder had the permission slip for the field trip. Braid her dark hair, still learning, still uneven, but getting better. Drive her to Riverside Elementary by 7:40, watch her backpack bounce as she ran toward her best friend Zoe, then head to Morrison's auto repair where he'd worked for 6 years. But today, Ryan had stopped. The Cornerstone Cafe sat 3 blocks from Mia's school, tucked between a dry cleaner and a bookstore that somehow survived in the age of online shopping. Ryan rarely deviated from routine. Routine kept grief manageable, kept the questions at bay, kept Mia's world stable after losing her mother. But this morning, his truck needed gas and the cafe was right there, and he'd skipped breakfast. The interior smelled like coffee grounds and cinnamon, brick walls, mismatched furniture, local art nobody bought. A handful of early risers occupied corners with laptops and oversized mugs. Ryan ordered black coffee and a blueberry muffin, paid in exact change, and claimed a table near the window where he could watch Seattle wake up under its perpetual gray sky. He'd managed 3 bites when he noticed her. She sat 2 tables over, facing away, but her posture caught his attention first. Rigid, contained, like someone trying to occupy as little space as possible. Dark hair pulled back severely. Expensive coat that didn't match the neighborhood. Her hands wrapped around a cup she wasn't drinking from. Then the man approached. Ryan didn't hear the beginning. The cafe's acoustic guitar playlist masked the initial exchange, but body language needed no translation. The man, mid-40s, tailored suit, wedding ring that caught the light, leaned over her table with the aggressive familiarity of someone who believed proximity equaled authority. The woman's shoulders drew inward. Ryan's jaw tightened. "Not your business," he told himself. The voice in his head sounded like his late wife, Sarah, who used to tease him about his fix-it instinct. "You can't repair everyone, Rye. Some things aren't broken machines." The man's voice rose just enough to cut through the music. "You can't just ignore me, Claire." Claire. Ryan filed the name away without meaning to. "I've asked you to leave me alone," she said quietly. Her voice carried the kind of control that came from practice, from repeatedly de-escalating situations she hadn't created. "We had plans. You don't get to just cancel. I never agreed to plans." The man's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. The cafe went silent. Not literally, the music still played, the espresso machine still hissed, but the quality of sound changed as conversations died and awareness sharpened. 6 customers and 2 baristas suddenly found their phones or newspapers fascinating. Ryan's coffee cup hit the table. He didn't plan it, didn't rehearse what he'd say. His body decided before his brain finished the risk assessment that kept him cautious, kept him safe, kept him from making waves that might ripple back to Mia. He crossed the space between tables in 4 strides. "She asked you to leave." Ryan kept his voice level, mechanic calm, the tone he used when explaining to customers why their transmission was shot. The man's head snapped up. He was taller than Ryan by 2 inches, broader through the shoulders, wearing confidence like cologne. His grip on Claire's wrist didn't loosen. "This is a private conversation," he said, each word clipped and dismissive. "Doesn't look private. Looks like you're hurting someone who wants you gone." Up close, Ryan could see Claire's face, pale, angular, eyes that held exhaustion deeper than one sleepless night. She wasn't looking at either of them. She stared at the man's hand on her wrist like she was calculating escape routes. "Who the hell are you?" The man straightened, releasing Claire's wrist to turn his full attention on Ryan. Her boyfriend. Someone who recognizes harassment. The word landed like a slap. The man's face flushed. Harassment? "I'm trying to have a conversation with..." "Had your conversation." She said no. "You grabbed her. That's not conversation. That's assault." Ryan felt his pulse in his throat. He hated this. Hated confrontation, hated attention, hated the way everyone in the cafe was definitely watching now despite their pretense of distraction. But he'd learned something in the 3 years since Sarah died. Learned it in the quiet moments when Mia asked why mommy wasn't coming home. Learned it in the everyday choices of single fatherhood. Sometimes courage was an absence of fear. Sometimes it was deciding what mattered more than your comfort. The man stepped closer, invading space with practiced aggression. "You want to make this a problem?" "I want you to leave." "She wants you to leave." "Only person who wants you here is you." Silence stretched. Ryan watched the man's jaw work, watched him calculate whether this was worth the scene. The barista had her phone out now, not even pretending she wasn't filming. That decided it. "This isn't over," the man said to Claire, ignoring Ryan entirely. Then he turned and walked out, letting the door slam with enough force to rattle the frame. The cafe exhaled collectively. Ryan turned to Claire. "Are you okay?" She was staring at him with an expression he couldn't decipher. Not gratitude exactly. Something more complicated. "I'm fine," she said automatically, then seemed to hear herself. "I mean, thank you. You didn't have to do that." "Yeah, I did." Ryan picked up the napkin that had fallen when the man grabbed her, set it back on her table. "You need me to call someone? Police? Friend?" "No." Too fast. Claire caught herself again, softened her tone. "No, I'm fine. Really, he's gone. That's what matters." Ryan studied her. Fine was what you told people when you didn't want to explain. Fine was what he'd told concerned neighbors and well-meaning relatives for a year after Sarah's funeral. Fine was the word people used when the truth was too heavy to share with strangers. "Okay," he said, because pushing wasn't his place. "But if he comes back, he won't." Claire's fingers touched her wrist where the man had grabbed it. No bruise yet, but Ryan knew that would change. "Thank you," she said again. "I mean it. Most people wouldn't have intervened, wouldn't have risked it, wouldn't have cared enough to step outside their own morning routine for someone else's crisis." "Hope your day gets better," Ryan said, and meant it. He returned to his table, to his now cold coffee and half-eaten muffin. His hands shook slightly. Adrenaline. Aftermath. Around him, the cafe slowly returned to normal volume. Conversations resumed. The barista put her phone away. Life moved on because life always moved on, whether you were ready or not. Ryan tried to focus on his breakfast, but his attention kept drifting back to Claire. She hadn't left. She sat perfectly still, staring at her untouched coffee like it held answers to questions she wasn't asking out loud. Even in stillness, she maintained that careful self-containment, that sense of someone who'd learned to make herself small. 10 minutes passed. 15. Ryan finished his muffin, checked his watch. He'd be late to Morrison's if he didn't leave soon, and stood to bus his dishes. "Excuse me." Claire had approached so quietly he hadn't noticed. Up close, he revised his earlier assessment. Not exhausted, haunted. The kind of weariness that came from carrying weight no one else could see. "I didn't mean to be abrupt before," she said. I'm not used to people." She trailed off, searching for words. "Can I buy you a coffee? To say thank you properly?" Ryan almost declined. He was already late. Morrison would give him grief about it. And something about this woman unsettled him, not in a dangerous way, but in the way that suggested complications he'd worked hard to avoid. But she was looking at him with something like hope, and Ryan had learned in the years since Sarah that hope was precious. "You didn't extinguish it carelessly." "Sure," he said, "but I buy my own coffee." The smallest smile touched her mouth. Fair enough. They claimed a corner table away from the window. Claire ordered herbal tea, chamomile, the barista specified without being asked, suggesting she was a regular. Ryan got a refill on his black coffee and learned that Claire wrapped her hands around hot mugs when she was nervous, that she made eye contact in quick bursts before looking away, that she asked questions like someone gathering intelligence. Do you always intervene in strangers' problems? She asked. Not usually, Ryan admitted. Generally keep to myself. What made today different? He considered the question. My daughter, he said finally. Mia, she's 8. I keep thinking about what kind of world I'm teaching her to navigate. If I want her to believe people help each other, I have to actually help people. Something shifted in Claire's expression. That's a good reason. You have kids? No. The word came wrapped in layers Ryan didn't probe. Never seemed to be the right time. Work always took priority. What kind of work? The question came out more curious than interrogative, but Claire's shoulders tensed anyway. Consulting, she said vaguely. Business development. Very boring. Ryan let it go. People were entitled to privacy, entitled to their carefully constructed boundaries. He understood boundaries. He'd built his entire post-Sarah life on them. They talked for 20 minutes. Safe topics, Seattle weather, the cafe's cinnamon rolls, whether the Mariners would ever win a World Series. Claire laughed exactly twice, small, surprised sounds like she'd forgotten laughter was permitted. Ryan found himself wanting to hear it again. I should go, he said when his watch showed 8:40. Morrison definitely wouldn't be pleased. But I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you were here, Claire said. I'm not sure what would have happened if someone else would have stepped up. Maybe, but you did. She pulled a business card from her purse, hesitated, then tucked it back. I come here most Wednesday mornings, if you're ever around again. For coffee, or just conversation. It wasn't a proposition, it was something more tentative, an offer of continued existence in each other's orbits without expectation or pressure. I'm usually getting my daughter to school Wednesdays, Ryan said, but sometimes I stop after. If I see you, I see you. If you see me, Claire echoed. Ryan left feeling slightly off balance, like he'd shifted position too quickly and the world hadn't caught up. Morrison gave him hell for being late, good-natured hell, but hell nonetheless. And Ryan spent the morning with his hands in engine grease, rebuilding a carburetor while his mind replayed Claire's expression when the man had grabbed her wrist. He picked Mia up at 3:15, listened to her chatter about fractions and how Zoe had fallen off the monkey bars but was fine, made spaghetti for dinner, helped with homework, read 2 chapters of their current bedtime book, a mystery series about kid detectives that Mia loved. Normal, routine, the life he'd built from grief's wreckage. But that night, lying in bed, Ryan thought about Claire asking if he always intervened, thought about the answer he hadn't given, that he'd spent 3 years learning to be invisible, to move through the world without drawing attention, because attention meant questions, and questions meant talking about Sarah, and talking about Sarah meant feeling the loss fresh and sharp and impossible. Today, he'd chosen to be visible, for a stranger, for someone whose last name he didn't know and whose real job she'd deflected. Sleep came slowly, and when it came, it brought dreams of coffee shops and women with secrets. Wednesday arrived again with Seattle's signature drizzle. Ryan went through his morning routine, Mia's lunch, hair braiding, homework check, and found himself taking the route that passed Cornerstone Cafe. Not intentionally, or not consciously intentionally, but when he parked and walked in, he wasn't surprised to find Claire at the same corner table. She looked up when he entered. Something eased in her posture. Coffee's on me, she said before he could speak. I owe you for last week. You don't owe me anything. Humor me. So Ryan sat, and they talked. About nothing. About everything. Claire asked about Mia, cautious questions that suggested she didn't have much experience with children, but wanted to understand Ryan's life. Ryan asked about her week. General inquiries she answered with careful deflection. You're good at that, he observed. Good at what? Answering questions without actually answering them. Claire's lips quirked. Occupational hazard. In consulting, you learn to manage information flow. Must be exhausting, always monitoring what you say. You have no idea. The words slipped out unguarded, and Claire looked momentarily startled by her own honesty. She recovered quickly, steering the conversation back to safer territory. Tell me about your work. Morrison's, right? You mentioned it last week. Ryan talked about cars, about the satisfaction of diagnosing problems and engineering solutions, about the customers who didn't understand why their check engine light mattered until their transmission failed. Claire listened with genuine attention, asking questions that demonstrated she actually understood mechanical systems. My father restored classic cars, she said when he mentioned a '67 Mustang he'd rebuilt. Spent every weekend in the garage. I was never allowed to help. Too young, too clumsy, too likely to mess something up. But I'd sit on the workbench and watch him work. There's something meditative about it, isn't there? The logic of parts fitting together. Yeah, Ryan said. Exactly that. They met again the following Wednesday, and the one after. Coffee became routine, became something Ryan looked forward to with an anticipation he hadn't felt since Sarah. Claire remained guarded about her personal life, but she opened up about smaller things. Her frustration with Seattle traffic, her opinion on the cafe's croissants, excellent, versus their scones, mediocre, her secret addiction to true crime podcasts. I know it's cliché, she said, laughing at herself. Successful woman listening to murder stories on her commute. But there's something compelling about the puzzle aspect, the investigation. Successful woman? Ryan echoed. That's specific. Claire's expression shuddered. Figure of speech. But Ryan had caught the slip, filed it away with other small observations. The way Claire's phone buzzed constantly, and she always silenced it. The expensive watch she wore that didn't match her otherwise understated appearance. The time she'd mentioned a business trip to Singapore like it was routine. He didn't push. Privacy was sacred. He understood that better than most. Week 5, Mia asked why Daddy kept stopping for coffee after school drop-off. Just making a friend, Ryan said, and realized it was true. He and Claire had developed something rare, connection without agenda, conversation without performance. With Claire, he didn't have to be Ryan the widower, or Ryan the single dad, or Ryan the guy who had his life together. Despite everything. He could just be Ryan, drinking terrible coffee and arguing about whether the Seahawks needed a new offensive coordinator. Week 6, Claire asked about Sarah. They'd been discussing Mia's upcoming birthday. She'd be 9, wanted a science-themed party, had very specific opinions about cake flavor. When Claire said quietly, "You mentioned your daughter's mother isn't in the picture. If that's too personal," Ryan traced the rim of his mug. 3 years, and grief still ambushed him at unexpected moments. Aneurysm, he said. 3 years ago in April. We were arguing about paint colors for the kitchen. She wanted sage green. I thought it was too trendy. Then she said her head hurt, really hurt, and by the time the ambulance came, he stopped, swallowed. Mia was 5. Old enough to understand Mommy was gone. Too young to understand why. Claire's hand moved across the table, stopped just short of touching his. I'm so sorry. Me too. Ryan looked up, met her eyes. But we're okay, Mia and me. We figured it out, built something that works. You did more than that, Claire said softly. You built something beautiful. The way you talk about her, your daughter, there's so much love there, so much intention. She's my whole world. She's lucky to have you. Ryan almost deflected, almost fell into the familiar pattern of self-deprecation. But Claire's expression held no pity, only recognition of what it costs to show up every day for someone who depended on you completely. Thank you, he said instead. The conversation shifted, but something had changed between them. A deeper current of understanding, of seeing each other beyond the carefully managed surfaces. Week 8, Claire was 40 minutes late. Ryan waited, telling himself she'd been held up, that traffic was bad, that people had lives and obligations. But worry gnawed at him. He'd never gotten her number. Their meetings had been deliberately spontaneous, uncommitted, and now he realized how little he actually knew about her life outside these Wednesday mornings. When she finally rushed in, her composure was cracked at the edges, hair slightly disheveled, makeup not quite perfect. The kind of almost invisible disarray that suggested a crisis barely contained. I'm sorry, she said, sliding into her seat. I couldn't get away. Work emergency. You okay? I'm fine. That word again. Fine. The universal lie. Ryan waited. Claire exhaled. No, not fine. Someone I trusted betrayed that trust, shared confidential information with a competitor. Now I'm dealing with the fallout, and it's... She pressed her fingers to her temples. I'm sorry. You don't need to hear this. I don't mind hearing it. You're a mechanic. You fix tangible things. My problems aren't the kind you can solve with the right tools and enough time. Maybe not, Ryan agreed, but sometimes talking helps anyway. So Claire talked, carefully, editing as she went, but more openly than before, about the pressure of leadership, the isolation of being responsible for others' livelihoods, the exhaustion of decisions that affected hundreds of lives. Ryan listened without trying to fix anything, without offering platitudes, just present and attentive. Thank you, Claire said when she'd wound down, for not telling me it'll be fine or that I'm strong enough to handle it. Are you? Strong enough. I have to be. That's what leadership means. The people who work for me, they have families, mortgages, dreams. I can't afford weakness. That's not strength, Ryan said quietly. That's martyrdom. Strength includes knowing when to ask for help. Claire looked at him like he'd offered her something precious and dangerous. I don't know how to do that. Ask for help. Practice, Ryan suggested. Start small. Ask the barista to surprise you with a drink order. Ask a friend to meet you for coffee on a random Tuesday. Ask someone you trust to just listen. I'm asking you, Claire said. Right now. I'm asking you to keep meeting me here. Keep being the person who doesn't need me to be anything except myself. Deal, Ryan said. On one condition. What? You tell me your real job, not consulting. The actual thing that has you taking calls to Singapore and dealing with corporate betrayal. Claire went very still. Why does it matter? Because you're asking me to be someone you can trust. Trust goes both ways. The silence stretched. Ryan waited, recognizing this as the moment their fragile connection either deepened or fractured. He'd shown her his grief, his daughter, his carefully reconstructed life. She'd shown him glimpses of pressure and isolation. But they'd been dancing around something fundamental, the truth of who she was when she wasn't sitting in this cafe pretending to be ordinary. CEO, Claire said finally. I'm the CEO of Rowan Enterprises. The name meant nothing to Ryan initially. Then recognition clicked. He'd seen it on buildings downtown, on tech news headlines he scrolled past, on the sponsor board at Mia's school fundraiser last year. You run a billion-dollar company, he said slowly. Yes. And you've been having coffee with a mechanic. I've been having coffee with someone who sees me as human. Claire's hands twisted together. Someone who intervened when a man grabbed my wrist. Someone who didn't look at me and see opportunity or access or networking potential. Just someone who needed help. Ryan processed this, recalibrating everything. That man in the cafe. The first day. Business associate who thought we had a different kind of relationship. Who couldn't accept that I wasn't interested. Who thought his position meant he could touch me without permission. Claire's voice went flat. Happens more than you'd think. I'm sorry. Don't be. You stopped it. She met his eyes. Are we okay, now that you know? Ryan considered. The money didn't bother him. Money was just resources, and everyone needed resources. The power was more complicated, the vast distance between their daily realities. But Claire sitting across from him, vulnerable and hoping he wouldn't reject her for telling the truth, was the same person who'd laughed at his joke about engine gaskets and listened intently to stories about Mia's science fair project. We're okay, he said, but I'm buying next time. Can't have you thinking I need a billionaire to subsidize my coffee habit. Claire's laugh was relief and gratitude mixed. Deal. They talked for another hour. Claire explained her company, renewable energy technology, global contracts, recent expansion into battery storage. Ryan explained the difference between synthetic and conventional oil. Neither conversation was particularly profound, but both felt significant. When they parted, Claire touched his arm. Thank you for not making this weird. Thank you for trusting me with it. Ryan drove to Morrison's thinking about masks and truth, about the versions of ourselves we showed the world and the versions we kept hidden. He thought about Sarah, who'd known all of him, his fears, his insecurities, his tendency to withdraw when overwhelmed. She'd loved him anyway, had demanded he stay present even when presence hurt. Claire had built walls, but she'd opened a door. That required its own kind of courage. That evening, after Mia went to bed, Ryan Googled Rowan Enterprises. Photos of Claire in formal business wear, commanding conference rooms, shaking hands with politicians and tech moguls. Articles about her leadership philosophy, her company's innovation, her rare interviews where she deflected personal questions with the same skill she'd used with him. But there was one photo, candid and informal, where she was laughing at something off camera. That was the Claire he knew. That was the person who'd asked him to keep seeing her as human. Ryan closed his laptop and sat in the quiet of his living room, listening to the house settle around him. Mia's breathing from down the hall, steady and peaceful. The refrigerator's hum. Traffic sounds from the street outside. For the first time in 3 years, the quiet felt less like loneliness and more like possibility. The next Wednesday, Ryan arrived at Cornerstone to find Claire already waiting, but she wasn't alone. A woman in a sharp blazer stood beside her table, tablet in hand, speaking in the clipped tones of someone accustomed to managing crises. Claire's expression was polite but distant, the corporate mask firmly in place. Ryan hesitated near the entrance, suddenly aware of the gulf between them. This was Claire's real world, assistants and tablets and decisions that moved markets. He was about to leave when Claire's gaze found his across the room. Something in her face shifted, tension releasing like a held breath finally exhaled. She said something to the assistant, who nodded and stepped away, phone already at her ear. Claire gestured to the empty chair across from her. "I'm interrupting," Ryan said as he approached. "You're rescuing me," Claire corrected. "Jennifer means well, but she wanted to brief me on quarterly projections during my 1 hour of peace this week." She studied his face. "You almost left. Didn't want to intrude on business. You're not business." The words came out fierce, like Claire was defending territory. Then she softened. "Sorry, it's been a difficult morning. Board meeting ran 3 hours over. 2 executives spent most of it arguing about market positioning while missing the actual point, which is that our customer retention metrics are down because we've stopped listening to what customers actually need." Ryan sat, signaling the barista for his usual. "What do they actually need?" "Reliability, affordability, products that work without requiring an engineering degree to operate." Claire wrapped her hands around her tea. "We've gotten so focused on innovation that we forgot about utility. My father used to say the best technology is invisible. It just works, so seamlessly you forget it's there. Somewhere along the way, we started prioritizing flashy over functional." Sounds like you know the solution. Knowing and implementing are different things. I have investors who want quarterly growth, shareholders who want dividends, a board that wants safe returns. Pivoting toward long-term customer satisfaction means short-term revenue hits. Convincing everyone that's the right move. She trailed off. "I'm doing it again. Dumping my work stress on you." "I don't mind." "You should. This isn't what you signed up for." Ryan waited until Claire met his eyes. "What did I sign up for?" The question hung between them. Claire's fingers tightened around her mug. "I don't know," she admitted. "Coffee, conversation, someone who doesn't want anything from me except my company? That's exactly what I signed up for." The assistant, Jennifer, reappeared at a discreet distance, clearly waiting for Claire's attention. Claire waved her over with visible reluctance. "I'm sorry," Jennifer said, including Ryan in her apologetic glance. "But the Singapore office needs a decision on the Henderson contract before end of business their time. That's in 40 minutes. Claire's jaw tightened. "Tell them I'll call in 20. They were hoping for video conference. 20 minutes, Jennifer. I'll be there." Jennifer retreated. Claire closed her eyes briefly. "This is my life. Stolen moments between obligations. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for your job." "I'm not apologizing for the job. I'm apologizing for wanting more than these Wednesday mornings, but not knowing how to make space for it." Claire stood, gathering her coat. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Mia's birthday is coming up. You mentioned a science party. Would it be completely inappropriate if I sent her a gift? I know we're not. She fumbled for words. I don't want to overstep. Ryan's chest tightened. The offer was generous and genuine, but it also represented Claire crossing a threshold from his life into Mia's. That mattered. That changed things. What kind of gift? He asked carefully. There's a robotics kit I've been developing at Rowan. Not released yet. Age-appropriate, educational, actually fun. I thought... Claire caught herself. I'm overstepping. Forget I mentioned it. No, Ryan said. Mia would love that. She's obsessed with building things. Last month she constructed a marble run using cardboard tubes and duct tape that went through 3 rooms. Claire's smile transformed her face. Then I'll have one sent over. If you give Jennifer your address... Claire. Ryan kept his voice gentle. When someone gives my daughter a gift, I like to know them. Really know them. Not just coffee talk know them. Understanding dawned in Claire's expression. You're right. Of course you're right. She pulled out her phone. Dinner? This Saturday? There's a place in Fremont that doesn't care who I am and makes incredible pho. I'd need to bring Mia. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. They exchanged numbers, made plans, and parted with the awkward awareness that they'd shifted from casual acquaintances to something more deliberate. Ryan drove to Morrison's, replaying the conversation, testing his decision from multiple angles. Sarah would have liked Claire, he thought, would have appreciated her directness, her intelligence, the way she asked real questions instead of making polite small talk. But Sarah wasn't here to weigh in, and Ryan had learned to trust his own judgment, even when doubt whispered warnings. Saturday arrived cold and clear. Mia changed outfits 3 times before settling on jeans and her favorite purple sweater, the one with stars that she insisted was sophisticated enough for meeting Daddy's friend. Is she nice? Mia asked for the 4th time as Ryan navigated toward Fremont. Very nice. Is she your girlfriend? Ryan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She's my friend. We have coffee sometimes. Zoe's mom has coffee with Mr. Patterson from the bank, and Zoe says they're dating. Zoe's mom and I are different people in different situations. Mia absorbed this with 8-year-old logic. But do you like her? Like her? I like her company, Ryan said carefully. She's smart and interesting and kind, but we're just getting to know each other. No pressure, no expectations, just seeing if we enjoy spending time together. Okay. Mia kicked her feet against the seat. But if you did like her, I wouldn't be mad, just so you know. Ryan's throat tightened. Good to know, kiddo. The restaurant was small and crowded, steam fogging the windows, conversation in Vietnamese and English mixing with the clatter of dishes. Claire waited at a corner table, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater that made her look younger, more approachable. She stood when they approached, and Ryan saw nervousness in the way she smoothed her hair. You must be Mia, Claire said. Your dad talks about you constantly. Mia studied her with unnerving directness. He talks about you too, says you're very smart and run a big company. I try to be smart, and yes, I run a company, but right now I'm just Claire meeting new friends. Is that okay? That's okay. Mia climbed into her chair. Do they have spring rolls here? I really like spring rolls. The ice broken, dinner unfolded with surprising ease. Claire asked Mia about school, about the science fair project she was planning, about her favorite subjects. Mia, never shy, once comfortable, explained her theory about why dogs understood humans better than cats, and her detailed ranking of ice cream flavors. Mint chocolate chip is number 1, Mia declared, but only if the chocolate chunks are big enough. Little chips don't count. Solid reasoning, Claire said seriously. What about cookie dough? Top 3, but you have to watch out for freezer burn. Ryan watched them interact, something in his chest loosening. Claire didn't talk down to Mia or perform interest. She engaged genuinely, asked follow-up questions, remembered details. When Mia spilled water reaching for the sriracha, Claire handed over napkins without fuss, sharing a story about once dumping an entire bowl of soup in her lap during a business dinner. What did you do? Mia asked, wide-eyed, pretended it was intentional performance art, and kept talking about quarterly earnings like nothing happened. Claire grinned. Inside, I wanted to disappear, but sometimes you just have to commit to the situation. Did it work? We closed the deal, and I never wore white pants to a business dinner again. Mia giggled, and Ryan felt something shift irrevocably. This wasn't just coffee anymore. This was Claire in his real life, charming his daughter, sharing their table, fitting into spaces he'd kept carefully empty. After dinner, they walked along the waterfront despite the cold. Mia ran ahead, chasing seagulls with the unselfconscious energy of childhood. Claire fell into step beside Ryan, their shoulders nearly touching. "She's wonderful," Claire said quietly. "You've done an amazing job." "She makes it easy." "No, you make it look easy. There's a difference." Claire watched Mia leap over a puddle. "My parents divorced when I was 12. My father got weekends. He spent those weekends in his garage restoring cars, barely acknowledging I existed. My mother worked constantly, building her own company, trying to prove she didn't need him. I learned early that love was something you scheduled between obligations." Ryan heard the hurt beneath the words. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It made me self-sufficient, taught me not to depend on anyone." Claire's laugh was bitter. "Also made me terrible at relationships. I'm 42 years old and I've never lived with anyone. Never wanted to. Never trusted anyone enough to give them that kind of access to my life. Until I met a mechanic who stepped in when a stranger grabbed my wrist, who didn't Google me afterward or start treating me differently when he learned who I was, who invited me to dinner with his daughter like it was the most natural thing in the world." "It is natural," Ryan said. "You're my friend. Mia's part of my life. I wanted you to meet her. And now that you have, now that you see how awkward I am with kids, how I don't know the right things to say or do," Ryan stopped walking, turned to face her. "I see someone who just spent an hour making my daughter laugh. Someone who treated her questions seriously and shared embarrassing stories to make her feel comfortable. Someone who's trying despite being nervous. That's not awkward. That's brave." Claire's eyes were bright. "I like you," she said. "I really like you. And that terrifies me because I don't know how to do this. Dating? Relationships? I'm fluent in 5 languages and negotiate billion-dollar contracts, but I don't know how to—" She gestured helplessly. "How to what?" "How to be normal. How to exist outside of work. How to let someone in without destroying everything I've built." "Who said anything about normal?" Ryan smiled. "I'm a single dad who has panic attacks in the grocery store frozen food aisle because that's where Sarah collapsed. I talk to my dead wife sometimes, ask her opinion on parenting decisions. I've structured my entire life around avoiding risk because I'm terrified of Mia losing someone else she loves. So if we're measuring normal, neither of us qualifies. But you're here anyway. So are you." They stood in the cold Seattle wind whipping off the water while Mia fed seagulls pieces of bread she'd pocketed from the restaurant. The moment felt precarious, balanced on honesty too raw to take back. "I don't know how to do this," Claire repeated. "Neither do I," Ryan admitted. "But maybe we figure it out together. No pressure, no expectations, just seeing where this goes. What if I'm terrible at it? What if I work too much or forget important dates or can't turn off my phone during dinner? What if I withdraw when things get hard or struggle with letting you into Mia's life or panic when feelings get too intense?" Claire laughed shakily. "We're a disaster. We're human." Ryan reached for her hand, gave her time to pull away. She didn't. Her fingers laced through his, cold and uncertain, and there. "Let's just be human together. See what happens." "Okay," Claire whispered. "Okay." Mia ran back, breathless and happy. "Can Claire come to my birthday party? Please? I promise I won't make it weird." Ryan and Claire exchanged glances. "I don't think you could make it weird if you tried," Ryan told his daughter. "But yes, Claire's invited if she wants to come." "I'd love to," Claire said. "What's the theme again?" "Science. We're doing experiments and making slime, and Daddy's going to help us launch rockets in the park if it's not raining." "Rockets in the park," Claire repeated, smiling. "I wouldn't miss it." They parted at Ryan's truck, Mia already buckled in and yawning. Claire stood on the sidewalk, hands in her pockets, looking simultaneously hopeful and terrified. "Thank you for tonight," she said. "Thank you for taking a chance on us." "On us?" Claire echoed. "I like the sound of that." Ryan drove home with Mia's chatter washing over him, her approval of Claire expressed in detailed analysis of everything from Claire's earrings to her laugh. When Mia finally wound down, Ryan thought about the word Claire had repeated. Us. Such a small word for such a significant shift. The following week brought complications Ryan should have anticipated, but somehow hadn't. He was finishing an oil change when Morrison called him into the office, expression grim. "Got a weird call this morning," Morrison said. "Reporter from some business publication, asking about you, about your relationship with Claire Rowan." Ryan's stomach dropped. "What did you tell them?" "That you're an employee who does excellent work and your personal life is none of their damn business." Morrison crossed his arms. "Want to tell me what's going on?" "I'm dating someone. She happens to be well known. That's it." "Dating Claire Rowan?" Morrison let out a low whistle. "Ryan, you know I don't care who you see. But this person, she's got reporters calling, asking questions about your background, your finances, whether you have a criminal record. This is your life getting picked apart by strangers." "I know." Ryan had known, intellectually, that dating Claire would bring attention. He'd just underestimated how invasive that attention would feel. Is she worth it? Ryan thought about Claire laughing with Mia, about her hand in his on the waterfront, about the way she'd admitted her fears instead of hiding behind walls. "Yeah," he said. "She is." Morrison nodded slowly. "Then I've got your back. But be careful. People like that, they live in a different world. Money, power, influence, easy to get burned." Ryan returned to work carrying Morrison's warning like weight. That evening he called Claire. "A reporter contacted my boss," he said without preamble, "asking about me, about us." Claire's sharp intake of breath was audible. "I'm so sorry. I should have warned you this might happen. When I'm seen with someone new, especially someone not from my usual circles, the business press gets curious. What do they want to know? Everything. Your background, your finances, whether you have ulterior motives, whether I'm being taken advantage of." Claire's voice was tight with controlled anger. "It's invasive and insulting, and I hate it. I can make some calls, ask them to back off. Will that work?" "Probably not, but I can try." Ryan sat on his couch, staring at the dark television screen. "Is this always going to be part of it? People investigating me, questioning my motives?" "At first," Claire said carefully. "But the novelty fades. If we're consistent, if we don't give them anything dramatic, they'll lose interest and move on. And if we do give them something dramatic, then it gets worse before it gets better." She paused. "Ryan, if this is too much, I understand. I won't blame you for walking away. This isn't what you signed up for." "You keep saying that. What I signed up for." "Because it's true. You wanted coffee and conversation, not media scrutiny and invasive questions." "I also didn't sign up for falling for someone," Ryan said quietly. "But here we are." Silence stretched across the line. Then Claire's voice, small and vulnerable. "Here we are. So we deal with it. Together, like we said." "Together," Claire agreed. "I'll do everything I can to protect your privacy. And Mia's. That's non-negotiable." "I know." They talked for another hour until Mia appeared in pajamas asking for water and a story. Claire said goodnight reluctantly, and Ryan felt the distance between them like physical space. But over the next weeks, distance became harder to maintain. Claire came to Mia's birthday party, helped 9-year-olds mix vinegar and baking soda for volcano experiments, and launched rockets in the park with enthusiasm that delighted the kids and exhausted the adults. Parents asked careful questions. "Who's your friend, Ryan? She seems nice. Does she work in tech?" And Ryan gave vague answers that satisfied no one. Claire sent Mia the robotics kit as promised. Mia spent 3 hours building a simple robot that could navigate obstacles, then insisted on video calling Claire to demonstrate. Ryan watched them talk animatedly about sensors and programming and felt his carefully maintained boundaries dissolving. "She's getting attached," Sarah's sister Kate warned during a phone call. "If this doesn't work out, Mia will be hurt." "I know," Ryan said. "Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're introducing your daughter to someone who lives in a completely different world. Someone who travels constantly, works 100-hour weeks, has responsibilities that don't include you or Mia. What happens when the novelty wears off and she remembers she's a billionaire CEO? She's not like that. Everyone's like that with enough pressure. Kate's voice softened. I'm not trying to hurt you. I just don't want to see you or Mia get hurt. You've both been through enough. Ryan ended the call feeling defensive and uncertain. Kate meant well. She'd been their rock after Sarah died, helping with Mia, bringing groceries, sitting with Ryan through the worst nights. She'd earned the right to worry. But she hadn't seen Claire with Mia, hadn't watched her navigate 8-year-old questions with patience and humor, hadn't heard the vulnerability in Claire's voice when she admitted she was terrified of failing at something that mattered. Friday night, Claire appeared at Ryan's door unannounced. She looked exhausted, makeup smudged, blazer wrinkled. I know I should have called, she said, but I was driving home from the office and I needed to see you. Ryan stepped aside, let her in. Mia was at a sleepover, Zoe's house carefully arranged and triple confirmed, leaving the house quiet and adult. Bad day? Ryan asked. Bad week, bad month. Claire collapsed onto his couch. We lost the Singapore contract. 6 months of negotiation, millions of dollars in projected revenue, hundreds of jobs that now won't happen, because someone on my team leaked our proposal to a competitor who undercut us at the last minute. The betrayal you mentioned before. Worse than I thought. It wasn't just information sharing, it was deliberate sabotage. Someone I trusted, someone I promoted, someone I defended when the board wanted to let them go. Claire's hands shook. I'm furious and hurt, and I feel like an idiot for not seeing it coming. Ryan sat beside her. What happens now? Legal action, termination, damage control. All the corporate machinery that grinds up people and spits out settlements. She turned to him. I'm sorry, I shouldn't dump this on you. Yes, you should. That's what friends do, what partners do. Partners. Claire tested the word. Is that what we are? I think so, if you want to be. I want to be so many things I don't know how to be. Claire leaned into him, and Ryan wrapped an arm around her shoulders. She fit there, head tucked under his chin, breathing slowly, evening out. This is nice, she murmured. Just sitting, no agenda. They sat in silence while the house settled around them. Outside, Seattle rain started, the familiar rhythm against windows. Claire's breathing deepened, exhaustion claiming her. Ryan let her sleep, this powerful woman who negotiated with governments and commanded boardrooms, vulnerable and small in his arms. When she woke an hour later, disoriented and apologetic, Ryan made tea and they talked properly. About the betrayal, about trust broken, about the isolation of leadership. Claire admitted she had few real friends, fewer people she could be honest with about fear or failure. Everyone wants something, she said. Access, investment, connections. Even people I've known for years have agendas. It's exhausting, constantly evaluating motives. What's my motive? Claire smiled. Your coffee habit. Access to superior conversation. Maybe you're playing a long game to get free car repairs for life. You caught me. This whole relationship is an elaborate scheme for discounted oil changes. She laughed, the sound lighter than before. Thank you for this, for not making me feel weak for needing support. You're not weak, you're human, there's a difference. When Claire left near midnight, she kissed him at the door, brief and soft and full of promise. Ryan stood in the doorway, watching her car disappear, rain soaking his shirt, feeling like he'd crossed some threshold he couldn't uncross. The media attention intensified after someone photographed them leaving a movie theater, Mia between them holding both their hands. The photo appeared in a business blog with speculation about Claire's mysterious new family. Ryan's phone exploded with calls from numbers he didn't recognize. Morrison fielded 3 more reporter inquiries. Even Mia's school called, gently asking if everything was all right. I'm making your life complicated, Claire said during their next coffee meeting. Life's already complicated. You just add different complications. Ryan, I'm serious. The scrutiny, it's not fair to you or Mia. Maybe we should slow down. Let things cool off. Is that what you want? Claire looked miserable. I want to protect you, both of you. Then do that. But don't pull away because you're scared of what might happen. We're already happening. Pulling away now just guarantees the hurt you're trying to prevent. When did you become so wise? Grief teaches you things, like the difference between protecting people and pushing them away. Ryan reached across the table, took her hand. I'm not fragile. Neither is Mia. We can handle attention. What we can't handle is you deciding for us what we can endure. Claire's eyes were bright. I don't deserve you. You deserve someone who sees you, not your company, not your bank account, not your influence. Just you. The person who falls asleep on my couch after bad days and plays robot building with a 9-year-old and admits when she's scared. I'm scared a lot lately. Me too, but I'm less scared when you're here. They navigated the attention together. Claire's publicist released a brief statement confirming she was in a relationship, requesting privacy, shutting down speculation. The initial frenzy faded as Claire predicted. Life settled into a new rhythm. Dinners at Ryan's house, weekend outings with Mia, stolen hours at Cornerstone Cafe where it had all begun. But Ryan felt the weight of their different worlds in small moments. When Claire took calls during dinner, speaking in corporate shorthand he didn't understand. When she traveled for days at a time, unreachable, except for brief text messages. When she looked at his modest house with an expression he couldn't read, evaluating spaces she'd never inhabit permanently. 3 months in, reality arrived in the form of a magazine. Mia found it at the grocery store checkout line while Ryan was paying. She held it up, confused. Daddy, why is Claire on this magazine? The cover photo showed Claire at some gala, stunning in formal wear commanding the camera. The headline read, Claire Rowan, the billionaire who has it all, except time for love. Ryan bought the magazine to keep Mia from reading it in the store. At home, while she did homework, he read the article. It was mostly flattering, Claire's business acumen, her company's innovations, her rare interviews. But the personal section twisted facts into narrative. Ryan as the simple mechanic who provided escape from corporate pressure. Their relationship as Claire slumming with ordinary life. Speculation about whether it was serious or just a phase. The words burned. Simple mechanic. Ordinary life. Like he was some experiment in normalcy for a woman whose real world existed elsewhere. Claire called that evening, her voice tight. I saw the article. Ryan, I'm so sorry. I never said any of that. They twisted my words, made implications I never intended. Did you talk to them about me? About us? Briefly, I thought if I gave them something honest, they'd leave us alone. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Ryan heard Mia singing in the bathroom, getting ready for bed. Simple mechanic, ordinary life. What did you actually say? That I value authenticity, that my relationship with you reminds me there's more to life than quarterly earnings, that you've taught me about being present. Claire's voice cracked. They turned that into you being some kind of life lesson, a phase. It's disgusting. But not entirely wrong. Silence. Then, what? I have taught you about being present. I am different from your usual world. Those things are true. That's not what the article implies, and you know it. Ryan sat on his couch, magazine open before him, and felt the weight of everything they'd been ignoring. Maybe we need to talk about it anyway, about what this actually is. What do you mean? I mean, we've been playing house for 3 months, having coffee, going to movies, pretending our lives are compatible. But they're not. You travel constantly, work 100-hour weeks, live in a penthouse I've never seen because it's too far from Mia's school for casual visits. I'm a mechanic who packs school lunches and coaches youth soccer and goes to bed at 9:30 because that's when Mia goes to bed. Those are circumstances, not incompatibilities. Are they? Because from where I'm sitting, it feels like we're good at stolen moments. Coffee shop meetings, weekend afternoons, brief phone calls between your obligations. But what happens when life gets real? When Mia's sick and I can't meet you for dinner? When you have a work crisis and disappear for a week? When the novelty of slumming with ordinary life wears off? That's not fair, Claire's voice went cold. I have never treated you as beneath me, never treated this as slumming. No. But you live in a world where people do, where I'll always be the simple mechanic who got lucky, where our relationship will always be questioned and analyzed and found wanting. So what are you saying? That we end this because other people have opinions? Ryan closed his eyes. I'm saying maybe they're right to question it. Maybe we've been so focused on making this work that we haven't asked if it should work. The silence stretched painful and long. When Claire spoke again, her voice was carefully controlled. I think you're scared. I think that article hit every insecurity you have about not being enough, about being ordinary in a world that values extraordinary. And instead of talking to me about it, you're pushing me away. Maybe I am, but that doesn't make the concerns invalid. No, it just makes them cowardly. The line went dead. Ryan sat holding his phone, feeling like he'd just made a catastrophic mistake, but unable to identify exactly what or how to fix it. Mia emerged from the bathroom, teeth brushed, ready for stories. "Where's Claire?" she asked. "I wanted to tell her about my science project." "She's busy tonight, honey." "She's always busy." Mia climbed into bed. "But she makes time anyway. That's what you said. That when people care, they make time even when it's hard." Out of the mouths of children, Ryan thought. Truth without filter. That night, after Mia slept, Ryan reread the article. Tried to see it objectively, separate from his wounded pride. The facts were accurate. He was a mechanic, Claire was a billionaire. Their worlds were vastly different. But the implications were cruel, reducing their relationship to a publicity stunt or a billionaire's whim. He thought about Claire falling asleep on his couch, about her laughing with Mia over robot construction, about the vulnerability in her voice when she admitted being scared. Then he thought about the calls she took during dinner, the trips that kept her away for days, the future he couldn't quite imagine where their lives actually merged instead of just intersecting. Somewhere between pride and fear and love and practicality, Ryan had lost the thread of what mattered. He'd let other voices, the article, Kate's warnings, his own insecurities, drown out the truth he'd felt standing on the waterfront with Claire's hand in his. We're human together. That's what they'd agreed to. Human meant messy, meant scared, meant sometimes saying stupid things when you felt cornered. Ryan picked up his phone, typed and deleted 3 messages before settling on simple truth. "I'm sorry, can we talk?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Tomorrow, Cornerstone, 7 a.m. Ryan exhaled. Tomorrow. They had tomorrow to figure out if human together was enough. Ryan arrived at Cornerstone 15 minutes early, which meant he sat alone nursing cold coffee while his stomach twisted into knots. The cafe was nearly empty at 7 on a Thursday morning. Just the barista and an elderly man reading a newspaper in the corner. Rain streaked the windows, turning Seattle into a watercolor blur of gray and green. Claire arrived exactly on time. She looked like she hadn't slept, dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide, hair pulled back in a severe knot. She ordered chamomile tea and sat across from Ryan without preamble. "I've been thinking about what you said," she began, hands wrapped around her mug. "About our lives being incompatible. About me living in a different world. And I need to know if that's really what you believe or if you're looking for an exit because things got too real." Ryan had rehearsed this conversation a dozen times in his head during the sleepless hours before dawn. None of those rehearsals had started like this, with Claire on offense, demanding truth instead of offering it. "I believe our lives are complicated," he said carefully. "I believe that article hit a nerve because it voiced things I've been thinking but not saying. But I don't want an exit. I want to know if we're building something sustainable or just enjoying each other until reality makes it impossible." What does sustainable mean to you? It means we're not just stealing moments between your business trips and my parenting schedule. It means we actually talk about a future instead of pretending we're fine with undefined. Claire set her mug down with deliberate care. "I didn't realize we were undefined. I thought we'd agreed to figure things out together." "We did. But figuring out together requires actual conversation about the hard things, like the fact that you've never invited me to your place. Like the fact that I've met Jennifer and maybe 2 other people from your life. Like the fact that when you travel, you disappear so completely, I wonder if I'm just something you do in Seattle between real obligations." The words came out harsher than he'd intended. Claire's face went very still. "You think you're a hobby," she said quietly. "Something I do when I have spare time. I think I don't know what I am, and that's starting to matter. You want to know why I haven't invited you to my place?" Claire's voice shook slightly. "Because it's not a home. It's a professionally decorated space I sleep in occasionally between trips. Because inviting you there would mean showing you how empty my real life is when I'm not here, with you and Mia pretending to be normal. Ryan hadn't expected that. Claire, and you haven't met people from my life because most of them aren't friends. They're colleagues, business associates, people who smile at company functions and stab you in the back at board meetings. The person who betrayed us in Singapore? We had dinner together the week before, laughed about some ridiculous client request. I trusted him. She swallowed hard. Trust isn't something I give easily anymore, but I gave it to you. I introduced you to the parts of myself I usually hide. And now you're questioning whether I'm serious about this because some article called you ordinary. It wasn't just the article. Then what was it? Ryan searched for words that wouldn't sound like excuses or self-pity. Your assistant called my boss to confirm my employment history. Did you know that? Someone from your team wanted to verify I actually worked at Morrison's, actually had the life I claimed. Claire went pale. I didn't authorize that. But it happened. And that's the world you live in, where people investigate the mechanic dating their CEO, where my life gets picked apart to make sure I'm not some con artist taking advantage. I'll fire whoever did that. That's not the point. Ryan leaned forward. The point is that I know I'm being vetted. That there are people in your orbit who think I'm not good enough, not smart enough, not successful enough to be with you. And most days I don't care what they think. But some days I wonder if they're right. They're not. How do you know? You've seen me in coffee shops and at my house with my daughter. You've seen the easy parts. What happens when you see the hard parts? When you realize I can barely afford Mia's dance classes? When you're at some gala with investors and I'm at home because I don't own a tux and wouldn't know which fork to use anyway? When your world demands things I can't provide? Claire stood abruptly, chair scraping. Come with me. What? Come with me. Right now. I want to show you something. Ryan followed her out of the cafe into the rain. Claire didn't have an umbrella. Neither did he. Water soaked through their jackets as she led him 3 blocks to a parking garage where a sleek black car waited, driver standing by the open rear door. Miss Rowan, the driver said with concern, you're soaked. It's fine, Marcus. We need to go to the penthouse. The drive took 20 minutes through morning traffic. Claire sat beside Ryan in tense silence, water dripping from her hair onto leather seats. Marcus didn't comment, didn't ask questions, just drove with the quiet competence of someone well paid to ignore his employer's eccentricities. The building was downtown, all glass and steel and security that required keycard access just to reach the elevator. They rode to the top floor in continued silence. Claire's hand shook slightly as she unlocked her door. The penthouse was exactly as she'd described, beautiful, impersonal, empty. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Modern furniture that looked expensive and uncomfortable. Abstract art that probably cost more than Ryan's truck. No photographs. No personal touches. No evidence that anyone actually lived here, instead of just occasionally sleeping between obligations. This is where I come when I'm not with you, Claire said, spreading her arms. This is my real life, sterile, lonely, perfectly decorated by someone I hired because I don't have time to care about furniture. I own 17 properties around the world, investment properties, company apartments, my parents' old house that I can't bring myself to sell. This is the only one with my name on the deed, and it feels less like home than that corner table at Cornerstone. Ryan walked to the windows, looked out at Seattle, stretching below. Why did you want me to see this? Because you need to understand that wealth doesn't equal better. That my world isn't some upgrade from yours. It's just different. Sometimes worse. She came to stand beside him. I have money and influence and I can travel anywhere, do anything. But I come home to this. To silence. To spaces designed to impress visitors I never invite over. Until 3 months ago I thought that was fine, thought that was enough. Then I met someone who actually has a home, who built something real from grief and love and daily choices to show up. Someone whose daughter has crayon drawings on the refrigerator and science projects taking over the kitchen table. Claire, I'm not finished. She turned to face him. You asked what sustainable means. Here's my answer. Sustainable means I stop pretending this penthouse is my life and start building something real. It means I ask you to help me understand what home feels like, because I've forgotten. It means I stop compartmentalizing you and Mia into Seattle time and start integrating you into all of my time. It means I'm willing to cut back on travel, delegate more, restructure my schedule to make space for what actually matters. Ryan's chest tightened. You can't restructure your entire life around a relationship that's only 3 months old. Why not? I've restructured my entire life around work for 20 years. That turned me into someone who sleeps in hotel rooms more often than her own bed and can't remember the last time she had dinner with someone who wasn't trying to sell her something or get something from her. I'm 42 years old, Ryan. I'm exhausted. I'm lonely. And for the first time in my adult life, I found something that feels more important than the next deal or the next acquisition. Her voice cracked. I found you. I found Mia. I found the possibility of building something that matters more than my company's stock price. What about Rowan Enterprises? Your responsibilities? I have a responsibility to myself too, to actually living instead of just working. Claire moved to the couch, sat down heavily. The Singapore contract we lost? When I found out, my first thought wasn't about the revenue or the jobs. It was about whether I'd have to cancel dinner with you and Mia to deal with the fallout. That's when I realized something had shifted, that you'd become more important than work. And that terrified me because I've never prioritized anything over work. Ryan sat beside her, processing. 3 months ago, he'd stopped at a cafe for coffee and intervened in a stranger's harassment. Now that stranger was sitting in her penthouse talking about restructuring her life around him. The velocity of it was dizzying. I need you to understand something, he said carefully. Mia's my priority, always. That means early mornings and school pickups and saying no to things because she has a recital or she's sick or she just needs me home. It means my time isn't entirely my own. It means you'd be signing up for ready-made family, not just a relationship with me. I know. Do you? Because dating someone with a kid isn't the same as spending weekend afternoons building robots. It's homework help and permission slips and navigating an 8-year-old's feelings about her dad dating someone who isn't her mom. It's complicated and messy, and there's no instruction manual. Good thing I'm smart enough to figure things out. Claire's smile was tentative. I won't be perfect at it. I'll probably work too much sometimes and miss things I shouldn't miss. But I want to try. Mia is part of you. I can't separate loving you from making space for loving her too. The words hung between them. Loving you. Neither of them had said it before, had carefully avoided the word like speaking it would make everything too real, too vulnerable. You love me, Ryan said slowly. Claire met his eyes. I love you. I love how you see the world, how you parent your daughter, how you fixed my broken trust in people by simply being honest. I love that you challenged me instead of telling me what I wanted to hear. I love that you make me want to be better, not more successful, just better as a human being. Ryan felt something crack open in his chest, 3 years of careful protection against feeling too much dissolving under the weight of Claire's honesty. I love you too, he said. That's why I panicked. That's why the article hurt so much. Because I love you enough that losing you feels catastrophic. And my brain decided the best way to avoid that loss was to create distance, to push you away before you could leave. I'm not leaving. You don't know that. Neither of us knows that. We can make promises, but life happens, work happens, complications happen. Then we deal with them. Claire took his hand. Together, like we said we would. No more pretending we don't have hard conversations ahead of us. No more avoiding topics because they're uncomfortable. We talk about the messy stuff. We figure out logistics. We make actual plans instead of just hoping things work out. Okay, Ryan squeezed her hand. Then let's start with the hard questions. How do we make this work practically? You travel constantly. I can't travel because of Mia. Long distance isn't sustainable long term. I can cut my travel by 60%, delegate site visits to regional managers, do video conferences instead of flying to every meeting. It's what I should have done years ago anyway. My presence isn't as essential as I've convinced myself it is. What about board expectations? The board works for shareholders, and I'm the majority shareholder. I set expectations. Claire's jaw set with determination. I've spent 20 years proving I'm indispensable. Maybe it's time to prove I can build a company that runs effectively without me micromanaging everything. Ryan considered this. What about when you do have to travel? Long trips, unavoidable obligations. Then we figure it out. Maybe Mia and I video call while you're at work. Maybe I send her robot parts she can build while I'm gone. Maybe we establish rituals that keep me connected even when I'm physically absent. And if I get scared again? If insecurity tells me I'm not enough? Then you tell me, before it becomes a fight, before you withdraw. Claire touched his face. I need you to promise me something. Promise that when you're scared, you'll say so. That you won't let fear drive decisions without at least talking to me first. I promise. But you have to promise the same thing. When work feels overwhelming, when you're tempted to disappear into obligations, tell me. Don't just vanish and expect me to understand. I promise. They sat in the sterile penthouse while rain drummed against the windows, making promises they hoped they could keep. Eventually, Claire called Marcus to take Ryan back to his truck. She had a meeting at 9 that she couldn't skip, and he had to get to work before Morrison invented new and creative ways to give him grief. Come to dinner tonight, Ryan said at the elevator. Real dinner, at my house. We'll tell Mia we're serious about this, that you're not just Daddy's friend who stops by sometimes. Claire looked nervous. What if she's not ready? What if it's too much? Then we'll know, and we'll adjust, but I think she'll be happy. She asked me last week if you were going to be her stepmom someday. What did you tell her? That I didn't know. That we were figuring things out. Ryan smiled. Now we can tell her we're figuring things out together, officially. Claire kissed him, soft and lingering. 6:30? 6:30. Ryan drove to Morrison's feeling lighter than he had in days. The hard conversation had happened. They'd said difficult things. They'd made promises. It wasn't perfect, wasn't completely resolved, but it was honest. Morrison took one look at his face and grinned. You two made up. How do you know? Because you're not doing that thing where you pretend you're fine while slowly imploding. So either you made up or you ended it, and you don't look like someone nursing a broken heart. We made up. Had the hard conversation, established some ground rules. Good. You're less insufferable when you're happy. Ryan spent the day with his hands in engines and his mind on the evening ahead. He left work at 5, stopped at the grocery store for ingredients, and arrived home to find Mia already there. Kate had picked her up from school, a weekly arrangement that gave Ryan flexibility. Aunt Kate said you seemed happy this morning, Mia reported, dropping her backpack by the door in direct violation of house rules. Are you and Claire okay? We're good. She's coming for dinner tonight. I wanted to talk to you about that. Mia's eyes went wide. Is this the talk? The one where you ask if I'm okay with you dating her? How do you know about that talk? Zoe's dad had it with her when he started dating Mr. Patterson. She said it was weird but also kind of nice because it meant her opinion mattered. Ryan sat at the kitchen table, gestured for Mia to join him. Your opinion does matter. It matters more than anything. Claire and I are getting serious. We love each other, and I need to know how you feel about that. Mia twisted her hands together, suddenly looking younger than 9. Do you love her as much as you loved Mommy? The question hit Ryan square in the chest. I love her differently than I loved Mommy. Mommy was my first love, my partner, your mother. Nothing will ever replace that or change how much I loved her. But loving Claire doesn't mean I stopped loving Mommy. It means my heart made space for both. Because hearts are elastic, Mia said thoughtfully. That's what Mrs. Chen says, that love doesn't run out, it just expands. Mrs. Chen is a smart teacher. So if you marry Claire, she'd be my stepmom? Eventually, maybe. We're not there yet. Right now, we're just committed to being together, to seeing where this goes. Mia chewed her lip. Would I have to call her Mom? No, never. You had a mom. Claire knows that. She's not trying to replace Mommy. She just wants to be part of our family in her own way. What if I like her, and then she leaves? There it was. The fear Ryan had been dancing around voiced with childhood directness. That's a risk, he admitted. Claire and I are both trying our best to make this work, but sometimes things don't work out even when people try. If that happens, it would hurt. But hurt is part of life, honey. We can't avoid it by never letting people close. Like how it hurt when Mommy died. Ryan's throat tightened. Similar, but hopefully not as much, and hopefully not at all. Claire and I are committed to fighting for this. Mia was quiet for a long moment. I like her, she said finally. She's nice and she's smart and she asks me real questions, not fake kid questions. And she makes you smile more. You've been sad for a long time, Daddy. It's nice seeing you not sad. Ryan pulled his daughter into a hug, overwhelmed by her perception and her generosity. You're pretty amazing, you know that? I know. Can I help make dinner? Claire likes pasta, right? They cooked together, Mia chattering about her day while Ryan chopped vegetables and tried not to overthink the evening ahead. This was it. The official integration of Claire into their established life. Not just visits and outings, but acknowledgement that she belonged here, in their kitchen, at their table, in their family structure. Claire arrived at 6:30 exactly, carrying flowers for Mia, not roses or anything romantic, but a bouquet of sunflowers because Mia had mentioned once that yellow was her favorite color. The gesture was thoughtful and specific, showing Claire had been paying attention. Mia beamed. These are perfect. I'll put them in the vase Mommy used to use. She ran to get the vase, leaving Ryan and Claire alone for a moment. You remembered sunflowers, Ryan said. I remember everything she tells me. Claire looked nervous. Is this okay? Coming here, being official about this? It's more than okay. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Mia dominated conversation, telling Claire about her science fair project in excruciating detail, getting Claire's opinion on whether baking soda volcanoes were overdone or classic. Claire engaged fully, asked follow-up questions, and admitted she'd done a baking soda volcano in 5th grade and won honorable mention. What's honorable mention? Mia asked. It means I didn't win, but the judges felt bad, so they gave me a certificate. Mia giggled. That's what Daddy says happens when I get participation trophies. After dinner, Mia insisted they play her favorite board game, a strategy game about building cities that usually bored Ryan to tears. But watching Claire engage with Mia's complex rules and questionable trading practices, he felt something settle in his chest. This could work. They could build something here. When Mia's bedtime rolled around, she looked at Claire hopefully. Will you read with us? Daddy and I are reading this mystery series, and we're on a really good part. Claire glanced at Ryan, who nodded. They settled on Mia's bed, the three of them squeezed together, Ryan reading while Mia and Claire listened. Halfway through this chapter, Mia's head drooped onto Claire's shoulder. Claire froze, clearly uncertain what to do. Just let her lean, Ryan whispered. It means she trusts you. When the chapter ended, Ryan carried a drowsy Mia to bed properly, tucked her in, kissed her forehead. Love you, kiddo. Love you, Daddy. Mia's eyes were already closing. Then, so softly Ryan almost missed it. Night, Claire. Good night, sweetheart, Claire said from the doorway, her voice thick with emotion. They returned to the living room. Claire sat on the couch, looked at her hands. She called me Claire, not Daddy's friend, just Claire. You're part of things now, officially. I didn't expect it to feel so... Claire searched for words. Important. Sitting there reading with you both, it felt more significant than any board meeting I've ever run, more real than any contract I've signed. Ryan sat beside her. That's what family feels like. Small moments that matter more than big events. I want this, Claire said fiercely. I want dinner at this table and mystery books at bedtime and flowers in vases that belong to Mia's mother. I want the ordinary life that article dismissed. Because it's not ordinary, it's extraordinary. It's also daily. It's not just the good moments. It's homework battles and early mornings and sick days when plans fall apart. I know, or I'm learning. Claire leaned against him. I want to learn. Teach me how to do this, how to be part of a family. They talked late into the night, making actual plans instead of vague promises. Claire would cut her travel schedule, work from Seattle more often, make space in her calendar for Mia's school events and Ryan's work schedule. She'd talk to her board about succession planning, about building leadership depth so the company didn't depend entirely on her presence. What if they push back? Ryan asked. Then I remind them that a CEO who burns out and collapses serves no one. That sustainability includes personal sustainability, that I'm not quitting, just rebalancing. And if they don't accept that? Claire's expression hardened. Then they can find a new CEO, because I'm not sacrificing this for corporate approval. The words were brave and terrifying. Ryan understood what they cost. Claire had spent her adult life building Rowan Enterprises, had sacrificed relationships and personal time, and probably her health for the company. Walking away, even partially, meant admitting other things mattered more. I don't want you to resent me, he said quietly. If you scale back and regret it, if you look at me in 5 years and blame me for missed opportunities, then I'll be looking at the wrong thing. Claire took both his hands. I've had opportunities, I've had success, I've proven everything I set out to prove, and I'm still lonely, still coming home to empty penthouses, still wondering what it's all for if there's no one to share it with. She met his eyes. You and Mia aren't distractions from my real life. You are my real life. Everything else is just work. Ryan kissed her, slow and deep, pouring everything he couldn't articulate into the connection between them. When they finally pulled apart, Claire was smiling. Stay, Ryan said impulsively. Tonight. I know Mia's here and we haven't talked about overnight visits, but stay anyway. Sleep in my bed, wake up here, have breakfast with us before school, be part of the morning chaos. You want me to meet the morning routine? I want you to see all of it. The unglamorous parts. Mia's not a morning person. She gets cranky about outfit choices and complains about her hair. I usually burn the first batch of pancakes. It's messy and loud and probably not what you're used to. Claire stood, pulled out her phone, sent a quick text. I just told Jennifer I won't be in until 10 tomorrow. She'll reschedule my morning meetings. Just like that? Just like that. Claire smiled. What's the point of being the boss if I can't occasionally prioritize what matters? They climbed the stairs to Ryan's bedroom, modest, comfortable, decorated with photographs of Mia at various ages, and one wedding photo of Ryan and Sarah that he'd never been able to put away. Claire paused at that photo. You're sure about this? She asked quietly. Having me here, in the space you shared with her? Ryan looked at Sarah's image, 26 and radiant in her wedding dress. Sarah would want me to be happy. She told me that right before the end, made me promise I'd find happiness again, that I wouldn't let grief consume everything. He touched the frame gently. This is me keeping that promise. They slept curled together in Ryan's bed, and when morning came chaotic and loud exactly as predicted, Claire laughed at Mia's outfit dramatics and helped rescue the burned pancakes and fit into their routine like she'd always belonged there. Watching her braid Mia's hair, slowly, carefully, definitely not as well as Ryan, but trying, he felt the last of his fear dissolve. This was real. This was sustainable. This was two people choosing each other despite complications, building something honest from fractured pieces. When he dropped Mia at school, she hugged him extra tight. I'm glad Claire stayed over, she whispered. It felt nice, like we're becoming a real family again. Ryan watched her run toward her classroom, backpack bouncing, and thought about family, how it wasn't about perfection or meeting external expectations, how it was about people choosing to show up for each other, day after ordinary day, building something that mattered more than individual success. Claire called during his lunch break. I told the board I'm scaling back travel. They weren't thrilled, but they'll adjust. And I'm having my assistant research houses in your neighborhood. The penthouse is going up for sale. Claire, you don't have to. I want to. I want a home, Ryan. A real one. With space for all of us. Where Mia can have sleepovers and we can host Sunday dinners, and there's a yard for whatever normal families do in yards. We play catch, build snow forts in winter. Mia wants a dog, but I keep saying no because our rental doesn't allow pets. Then we'll get a house that allows dogs. Claire laughed. Listen to me. 3 months ago, I couldn't imagine caring about yard space or pet policies. Now it's all I want to think about. Ryan felt his world expanding, making room for possibilities he'd stopped imagining. I love you, he said. I love you too. See you tonight? Tonight. Ryan returned to work thinking about yards and dogs and houses big enough for ready-made families, thinking about morning pancakes and bedtime stories and all the ordinary moments that built extraordinary lives. Morrison caught him smiling at an engine block. You're useless today. Probably. Good. It's about time you let yourself be happy. And Ryan realized he was. Happy. Not the careful, managed happiness he'd maintained for Mia's sake since Sarah died. Real happiness, messy and complicated and full of risk. The kind that came from choosing love even when it scared you. The kind that required trust and vulnerability and faith that the other person would show up, day after day, choosing you back. That evening, Ryan, Claire, and Mia started looking at houses online. Mia had very specific requirements: big backyard for the dog they didn't have yet, room for sleepovers, close to her school. Claire had different priorities: home office space, good security, proximity to Ryan's work. They compromised, laughed, made plans that felt both thrilling and terrifying. This was it, the real beginning, not the coffee shop meeting or the first kiss or even the I love yous. This was the moment they stopped testing whether it could work and committed to making it work. And somewhere, Ryan thought Sarah was smiling. Glad he'd kept his promise. Glad he'd found his way back to happiness. Different than before, but no less real. Glad he'd opened his carefully guarded life to let someone extraordinary into their ordinary days. The house hunting became a weekend ritual. Every Saturday morning, Claire would arrive at Ryan's rental with coffee and pastries, and they'd pile into her car with Mia bouncing excitedly in the back seat, notebook ready to rate each property on her elaborate scoring system. The first house had excellent yard potential, but terrible kitchen lighting. The second had a perfect kitchen, but no space for Claire's home office. The third was too far from Mia's school, the fourth too close to a busy intersection. The fifth had a layout that felt claustrophobic despite the square footage. "We're too picky," Ryan said after rejecting their eighth option, a beautiful craftsman with a basement that smelled perpetually of mildew. "We're not picky enough," Claire countered. "This is where we're building our life. It needs to be right." Mia sprawled across the back seat, reviewing her notes, looked up. "The problem is you both want different things. Daddy wants practical. Claire wants perfect. We need something in the middle." From the mouths of 9-year-olds, Ryan thought. Their realtor, a patient woman named Diane who'd stopped showing surprise at their unconventional family dynamic, smiled in the rearview mirror. "Smart kid," she said. "Tell you what, I've got one more property. Wasn't going to show it because it needs work, but it's got good bones and it's in your price range. Want to take a look?" The house sat on a quiet street 3 blocks from Riverside Elementary, a 1920s colonial with faded blue paint and a porch that sagged slightly on one side. The yard was overgrown but spacious, tall trees providing shade and privacy. Inside, the hardwood floors were scratched but salvageable. The kitchen was dated but functional, and upstairs there were 4 bedrooms, including one that could serve as Claire's office. "It needs cosmetic work," Diane said carefully. "New paint, kitchen update, bathroom renovations. But structurally, it's sound. The previous owners were elderly, kept up with maintenance, but not modernization." Mia ran through the rooms, her voice echoing in the empty spaces. "This one has a window seat, and the backyard is huge. Daddy, look at this backyard." Ryan walked through slowly, seeing past the worn carpets and outdated fixtures to the potential underneath. The bones were good, like Diane said. The layout worked. The location was perfect. But the renovations would be extensive. "It's a lot of work," he said to Claire, who stood in the living room studying the fireplace. "I like it," she said simply. "It feels like a home. Not a showpiece, not an investment property, an actual home where people live and make messes and build memories. The kitchen alone would cost $30,000 to update properly. Then we update it properly." Claire turned to face him. "Ryan, I can afford this. I know you're uncomfortable with me paying for things, but this would be our house, our investment, our life together. Your money. Our money if we're building a life together." Claire's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm not trying to buy your compliance or make you feel indebted. I'm trying to build a home with you. That means pooling resources, combining strengths. You have skills I don't have. You understand construction, can manage renovations, know what makes a house functional. I have capital. We both have vision for what we want this to be." Mia appeared in the doorway, breathless. "There's a tree in the backyard perfect for a swing, and the basement has space for my science experiments. Can we get it, please?" Ryan looked at his daughter's hopeful face, at Claire's careful expression that tried to hide how much she wanted this, at the house that needed work but offered possibility. He thought about Sarah, about the modest home they'd rented together, about how she'd always talked about buying a place where Mia could grow up with stability and roots. Okay, he said. Let's make an offer. Mia shrieked and launched herself at Ryan, nearly knocking him over. Claire's smile was incandescent. Diane pulled out her tablet to start paperwork, and just like that, they were committing to something bigger than coffee dates and weekend dinners. The offer process moved quickly. The sellers, eager to relocate closer to their children, accepted within 48 hours. Suddenly, Ryan was signing contracts and making decisions about escrow and home inspections. Claire beside him navigating the process with the same competence she brought to corporate acquisitions. This is different from buying a penthouse, she admitted one evening, reviewing inspection reports at Ryan's kitchen table while Mia did homework nearby. The inspector found issues I wouldn't have even known to look for. That's why we hire inspectors, Ryan said, scanning the list. Most of this is minor. The roof has maybe 5 years left, but that's manageable. The electrical is old but functional. We should replace the water heater proactively. How do you know all this? Morrison teaches. I've helped him flip a couple houses over the years, learned construction basics. Nothing professional, but enough to be dangerous. Claire leaned against him. I love that you know things I don't, that we complement each other instead of competing. What do you know that I don't? How to negotiate with contractors so they don't inflate estimates. How to schedule renovations so we're not displaced longer than necessary. How to manage a project budget. She grinned. Also, which granite countertops will still look good in 10 years versus which are trendy now and dated later. Granite countertops. Ryan shook his head. 2 months ago, I was eating alone in diners. Now I'm discussing granite countertops. Regrets? Not even slightly. They closed on the house 3 weeks later. Ryan stood in the empty living room holding the keys, Mia dancing around him while Claire documented everything on her phone, already planning renovations. First thing, we paint Mia's room whatever color she wants, Claire declared. This is her house too. She gets to make it hers. Mia stopped dancing. Whatever color. Within reason. Maybe avoid black or anything that would require 17 coats of primer. Can I have purple? Like really purple? Really purple it is. They spent that first weekend cleaning, taking measurements, making lists of everything that needed updating. Ryan worked alongside Claire, watching her tackle baseboard scrubbing with the same intensity she probably brought to board meetings. She was terrible at it, missed corners and used too much cleaner, but she tried with endearing determination. You don't have to do this, Ryan said, taking the sponge from her hands. We can hire cleaners. I want to do it. I want to earn this house, not just buy it. Claire sat back on her heels, surveying the room. I've never done this before. Made a space my own through actual physical work. It feels important. It is important. Ryan helped her to her feet. But you're also getting cleaner on your face. Claire laughed, wiping at the smudge on her cheek. How do you make manual labor look effortless while I look like I'm losing a fight with soap? Practice, years of oil changes and engine work. You develop efficiency. Mia appeared from the kitchen where she'd been supposedly cleaning cabinets, but had mostly been planning where to put her science equipment. Can we order pizza? I'm starving and there's no food here because we don't live here yet. They sat on the dusty floor eating pizza from the box, planning room assignments and renovation priorities. Mia wanted her purple room first. Claire needed her office functional for video conferences. Ryan wanted the master bathroom updated so they weren't all fighting over one shower. When do we actually move in? Mia asked around a mouthful of pepperoni. Ryan and Claire exchanged glances. They'd been dancing around that question for weeks. The house needed work, but it was livable. The question was less about readiness and more about commitment, about taking the final step from dating to actually cohabiting. What if we did a gradual move? Claire suggested. Start staying here on weekends while renovations happen during the week. Get used to the space, figure out how we live together, then make it permanent once the major work is done. That could work, Ryan said slowly. Give us time to adjust without the pressure of it being all or nothing immediately. Can I bring my stuff this weekend? Mia asked eagerly. I want to sleep in my purple room even if it's not painted yet. So they started the gradual migration. Friday nights became the transition point. Ryan and Mia would pack overnight bags and meet Claire at the new house. They'd spend the weekend there, navigating the quirks of unfamiliar plumbing and learning which floorboards creaked. Claire taught Mia to cook simple meals in the outdated kitchen. Ryan taught Claire basic home maintenance, how to shut off the water main and reset the circuit breaker. I've lived in 17 properties and never learned any of this, Claire admitted, watching Ryan fix a leaky faucet. I just called building maintenance. Building maintenance won't be available at 2 in the morning when a pipe bursts. These are life skills. Says the man who didn't know about quarterly tax planning until I explained it. Touché. They fell into rhythms, built routines. Saturday mornings meant farmers' market runs for fresh produce. Saturday afternoons were for renovation work, painting, updating fixtures, refinishing floors. Saturday nights they'd order takeout and eat on the porch, watching the sun set through the trees. Sundays were for Mia. Whatever she wanted to do, they did together as a family unit. The word family settled into their vocabulary naturally. Claire started saying our house instead of the house. Mia introduced Claire to her friends as my dad's girlfriend who lives with us on weekends. Ryan found himself thinking in terms of we instead of I. But integration wasn't seamless. 4 weeks into their weekend routine, Claire's phone rang at 6 in the morning with a crisis from the Tokyo office. She spent 3 hours on a video call, voice sharp and authoritative, while Ryan made breakfast and tried to keep Mia quiet. When Claire finally emerged exhausted and tense, Mia asked why she had to work on Saturdays. Because sometimes emergencies happen, sweetheart, Claire said, but her voice carried strain. You said weekends were for family. They are, but I also have responsibilities to a lot of people who depend on me. Mia's face scrunched in thought. Do you wish you didn't have to work so much? The question was innocent, but Ryan saw it land like a blow. Claire crouched to Mia's level. Sometimes I do, she said honestly. I love my work, but I also love being here with you and your dad. Finding balance is hard. I'm still learning how. Okay. Mia accepted this with childhood pragmatism. But next Saturday, can we still do the farmer's market like you promised? Absolutely. I'll make sure of it. After Mia went outside to play, Claire collapsed on the couch beside Ryan. I'm failing at this. You're not failing. You had a work emergency. That happens. But I promised her the morning, promised both of you, and instead I spent 3 hours arbitrating a contract dispute that probably could have waited until Monday. Could it have? Claire was quiet. Maybe. I don't know anymore. For 20 years, everything was urgent. Every crisis required immediate attention. I'm trying to recalibrate, but old habits are hard to break. Ryan took her hand. What if you had a rule? Weekends are ours unless it's genuinely catastrophic. Not just urgent, but catastrophic. Company-threatening, life or death level emergency. What counts as catastrophic? You'll know. Trust yourself to know the difference between this needs handling now and this is uncomfortable but can wait until Monday. Claire leaned her head on his shoulder. What if I get it wrong? Then we talk about it, adjust, figure it out together. Ryan kissed the top of her head. You're not going to be perfect at this immediately. None of us are. The next Saturday, Claire's phone rang again. She looked at the screen, looked at Mia waiting by the door with her farmer's market bag, and sent the call to voicemail. She followed it with a text Ryan glimpsed over her shoulder. Not available except for emergencies. Will respond Monday. Mia beamed. Claire looked terrified. But they went to the farmer's market, bought overpriced organic strawberries and fresh bread, and Claire only checked her phone twice. Progress came in increments. Claire learned to delegate better, to trust her executive team with decisions she'd previously insisted on making personally. She scheduled regular days off, blocking them in her calendar with the same importance she'd once reserved for board meetings. She stopped answering emails after 7 p.m., stopped taking calls during dinner, stopped treating work as the default priority. My board thinks I'm having a breakdown, she told Ryan one evening while they painted Mia's room the promised purple. Are you? Maybe. A productive one. Claire loaded her roller with paint. I hired a COO last week, someone to handle day-to-day operations so I can focus on strategy and vision. How do you feel about that? Terrified. Relieved. Like I'm finally admitting I can't do everything alone. She painted a careful stripe. Also like I should have done this years ago. The house transformed around them. New kitchen with granite countertops that Claire promised would be timeless. Updated bathrooms with tile. Ryan installed himself over a long weekend. Refinished floors that gleamed honey gold in the afternoon light. fresh paint throughout, each room a collaborative decision. Mia's purple room became her sanctuary, filled with science equipment and books and the robotics kit Claire had gifted months ago. Claire's office took shape with built-in shelving and a desk positioned to overlook the backyard. The master bedroom became theirs, decorated with input from both, a blend of Claire's modern aesthetic and Ryan's preference for comfort. "It's starting to feel real," Claire said, standing in the finished living room. "Not just a house we're working on, a home we're building." "It is real," Ryan said. "Has been for a while now." 8 weeks into renovations, Kate came for dinner. She walked through the house with careful neutrality, complimenting the paint colors and the kitchen updates, being polite to Claire without being warm. After Mia went to bed, Kate pulled Ryan aside. "Can we talk? Just us?" They stood on the porch, the same porch where Ryan and Claire had eaten countless takeout dinners. Kate leaned against the railing, choosing her words carefully. "I'm worried about you," she said finally. "I'm happy, Kate. Happier than I've been in years." "I know, I can see that. But I'm worried about what happens when this falls apart." "Why are you so convinced it will fall apart?" Kate sighed. "Because people like Claire Rowan don't end up with mechanics, Ryan. They just don't. And I know that sounds harsh and classist, but it's reality. She's got $1 billion company and international obligations and a life that doesn't fit in this house, no matter how much you renovate it. She wants to be here. She chose this. For now. But what about in a year? 2 years? When the novelty wears off and she remembers she's got shareholder meetings and business acquisitions in a world that expects more than weekend farmers markets?" Ryan felt anger rise, hot and defensive. "You don't know her. You've met her 3 times and decided she's not capable of actually caring about us." "I'm not saying she doesn't care. I'm saying caring isn't always enough. Sarah cared about you desperately, and she still died and left you alone with a 5-year-old. I watched you rebuild from that. I don't want to watch you fall apart again." "This is different. Is it? Or are you just so grateful someone wants you that you're ignoring obvious incompatibilities?" The words were cruel and probably meant to be. Ryan took a breath, forced himself to respond calmly. "Claire moved here, restructured her entire company, hired a COO to handle operations so she could be present. She's learning to cook for a 9-year-old and scrub baseboards and live in a house that probably costs less than her monthly penthouse fees. That's not novelty. That's commitment. Or it's what she needs to tell herself to justify this choice. Ryan, I love you. I want you happy. But I also want you realistic about what you're building here. You're creating a life dependent on someone who spent her entire adult life putting work first. What happens when push comes to shove and she has to choose? She'll choose us." "You sound certain." "I am certain, because I know her. Not the magazine version or the corporate CEO version. The actual person who falls asleep during movie nights and burns pancakes and admitted she's terrified of failing at the one thing that actually matters to her." Kate studied his face. "You're in love with her." "Completely." "And Mia?" "Mia adores her. They're building their own relationship, independent of me." Kate was quiet for a long moment. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll trust your judgment. But Ryan, if this does fall apart, if she does choose the company over you, promise me you'll let people help. Don't disappear into yourself like you did after Sarah." "I promise." They went back inside to find Claire and Mia in the kitchen making hot chocolate. Mia explaining the precise ratio of chocolate to milk, while Claire listened with exaggerated seriousness. Kate watched them interact, and Ryan saw her expression soften slightly. Before she left, Kate hugged him tight. "She makes you happy. That counts for something." "It counts for everything." That night, after everyone had gone and the house was quiet, Ryan and Claire lay in their bed, the bed they'd chosen together, in the room they'd painted together, in the house they were building together. "Kate thinks you'll leave eventually," Ryan said into the darkness. Claire was silent for a moment. "Do you think that?" "No, but I understand why she worries. I scared her when I took that call from Tokyo, showed her that work can still intrude, still demand attention. Can I ask you something?" Ryan turned to face her. "If the board gave you an ultimatum, full-time CEO or resign, what would you choose?" Claire didn't answer immediately. Ryan appreciated her honesty, her refusal to give easy platitudes. 6 months ago, I would have chosen the company without hesitation, she said finally. It was my whole identity, everything I'd built. But now? She laced her fingers through his. Now I'd tell them to find someone who wants to sacrifice everything for quarterly returns. Because I'm done sacrificing. I'm done choosing work over life. You built something remarkable at Rowan. That matters. It does. But it's not more important than this, than us, than Mia asking me to keep promises about farmers markets. Claire's voice was fierce. I spent 20 years proving I was good enough, smart enough, ruthless enough, and I succeeded. I have the company and the money and the influence, but I was miserable. This house, this life with you and Mia, this is what enough actually feels like. Ryan kissed her, slow and deep, pouring everything he felt into the connection between them. When they pulled apart, Claire was smiling. Besides, she said, I already told the board about succession planning. In 5 years, I transition to chairman. Someone else takes CEO. I stay involved in strategy and vision, but the daily operations aren't my responsibility anymore. You made that decision without telling me? I made it before we found this house, before we started building this life. I just wanted to be sure it was the right choice before I mentioned it. Claire propped herself up on one elbow. Is it wrong that I'm excited? That I'm looking forward to not being defined entirely by my company? It's not wrong. It's healthy. I keep waiting to panic, to wake up and regret stepping back. But it hasn't happened. Instead, I just feel lighter. They fell asleep tangled together, and Ryan dreamed of futures that felt possible instead of terrifying. Of Mia growing up in this house with stability and love. Of mornings that didn't start with alarms and obligations. Of building something that mattered more than success or status or external validation. The following weeks brought finishing touches to the renovations. They moved in permanently on a rainy Saturday in October, the three of them carrying boxes from the moving truck while rain soaked their clothes and made them laugh at the absurdity of their timing. We could have scheduled this for a sunny day, Claire said, water dripping from her hair. Where's the adventure in that? Ryan hefted another box. Mia jumped in puddles on the walkway, delighted by the chaos. This is the best moving day ever. By evening, the house was a disaster of half-unpacked boxes and furniture in wrong rooms. They ordered pizza again, a tradition now, apparently, and ate sitting on the floor of their living room. Home, Claire said, looking around at the chaos. We're actually home. Finally, Mia agreed, already making plans for where to put her science equipment. Ryan looked at his ready-made family, at the house they'd built together from dated colonial to actual home, and felt something click into place. This was what Sarah had wanted for him. Not to move on as if she'd never existed, but to move forward into happiness that honored her memory by embracing new love. Later, after Mia was asleep in her purple room and the rain had softened to drizzle, Ryan and Claire stood at the bedroom window looking out at their backyard. I keep thinking about that first morning at Cornerstone, Claire said quietly, when that man grabbed my wrist and you stepped in. I was so angry at myself for being in that position, for letting someone think they had the right to touch me. And then you appeared and everything changed. I was terrified, Ryan admitted. Hated confrontation, hated attention, but you looked scared and I couldn't just sit there. Best decision you ever made? Second best. First was asking you to have coffee with me. Claire laughed. I asked you. Details. Ryan wrapped his arms around her from behind. Point is, we found each other, built this against all reasonable odds. Think we can keep building it? Keep choosing each other, even when it's hard? I know we can, because we already have been. Ryan kissed her temple. This is just the beginning, Claire. We've got the whole rest of our lives to figure out what comes next. The whole rest of our lives, Claire echoed, leaning into him. I like the sound of that. Outside, the rain continued, washing the city clean, making space for whatever tomorrow would bring. Inside, their home waited, imperfect, honest, built from love and labor and the daily choice to keep showing up for each other. Ryan thought about the man he'd been 3 months ago, eating alone in cafes, protecting his heart from anything that might crack his careful control. That man was gone, replaced by someone braver, someone willing to risk hurt for the possibility of happiness. And happiness, it turned out, wasn't the absence of fear or complication. It was choosing to build something beautiful anyway, brick by brick, conversation by conversation, choosing each other over and over until choosing became as natural as breathing. 3 months into living together permanently, winter settled over Seattle with characteristic gloom. The house had become theirs in the truest sense. Mia's artwork covered the refrigerator, Claire's work files lived in organized chaos on her office desk, Ryan's tools occupied the garage in systematic arrangement. They'd developed rhythms that felt both intentional and organic, morning routines that flowed without discussion, evening patterns that accommodated work and homework, and the thousand small negotiations of shared life. But on a gray January morning, everything shifted. Ryan was making breakfast when Claire's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, frowned, and answered with the crisp professionalism she reserved for serious business calls. "This is Claire." She listened, her expression growing progressively tighter. "When did this happen? How bad is the damage?" More listening. "I understand. I'll be there as soon as I can arrange travel." She ended the call and stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, phone still in her hand. "What's wrong?" Ryan asked, setting down the spatula. "Fire at our Singapore manufacturing facility. Major damage to the production line. No casualties, thank goodness, but the financial impact is substantial, and the timing couldn't be worse. We have contracts due in 3 weeks that now can't be fulfilled without that facility operational." "What do you need to do?" "Fly to Singapore. Meet with the facility managers, assess the damage, make decisions about whether to rebuild or relocate production. The board is convening an emergency meeting." Claire's hands shook slightly. "This is catastrophic. Exactly the kind of crisis I was afraid would happen." Mia appeared in her pajamas, took one look at Claire's face, and asked quietly, "Do you have to go away?" The question hung heavy. Claire crouched to Mia's level. "Yes, sweetheart, there's an emergency at work. People are depending on me to help fix it." "For how long?" "I don't know yet. At least a week, maybe longer." Mia's face fell. "But you promised to help with my science fair presentation on Thursday. You said we'd practice together." Claire's expression cracked. "I know, honey. I'm so sorry. I'll make it up to you when I get back." "Everyone always says that," Mia said, tears welling. "Mom said she'd be at my kindergarten play and then she died. You said weekends were for family and then work called. Now you're leaving again." She turned and ran upstairs, her bedroom door slamming with finality. Ryan and Claire stared at each other across the kitchen. "I should go talk to her," Claire said, but she didn't move. "Give her a minute to process." Ryan pulled Claire into his arms. "This isn't your fault. You didn't start the fire." "But I have to leave anyway. Have to choose work over being here for her science fair, over being here for you, over everything I promised when we built this life together." "You're not choosing work over us. You're handling an actual emergency. There's a difference." Claire pulled back. "Is there? Because from where Mia's standing, I'm leaving just like everyone leaves. Just like her mother left, even though that wasn't Sarah's choice. I'm proving Kate right, that when push comes to shove, the company comes first." "That's not what this is." "Isn't it?" Claire's voice broke. "I restructured my entire life around being present, and the first major crisis, I'm on a plane to Singapore. What kind of commitment is that?" Ryan took her face in his hands, made her look at him. "The kind where you handle genuine emergencies while maintaining the life you've built. Claire, if you ignored this fire, if you let the company collapse because you refused to travel, you'd resent us eventually. This isn't choosing between family and work. This is honoring all your responsibilities. Mia won't see it that way. Then we help her see it, together. We don't let this become evidence that you're leaving. We make it evidence that you always come back." Claire's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "What if I can't fix it? What if I'm gone for weeks and everything we've built falls apart?" "It won't. We're stronger than one business trip, even a long one." Ryan kissed her forehead. "Go to Singapore. Handle the crisis. Trust us to be here when you get back." "I'm scared." "Me too, but we do it anyway." Claire went upstairs to talk to Mia. Ryan heard murmured conversation, Mia's raised voice, Claire's patient responses. 20 minutes later, Claire came down looking wrung out. She's angry, scared, feels abandoned. Claire grabbed her laptop bag. I told her I'd video call every day, that I'd help her practice her presentation over video, that I'd be back before her actual science fair if humanly possible. She said she didn't believe me. She's 9. Her mother died. Abandonment is her core wound. This triggers that. I know, which makes leaving feel even worse. Claire checked her watch. I need to pack. The company plane leaves in 3 hours. Ryan helped her pack, moving through the familiar motions while his chest felt tight. This was the test, he realized. Not the magazine articles or Kate's warnings or even the daily negotiations of merged lives. This was the moment where Claire's two worlds collided with force, where she had to navigate crisis without abandoning commitment. At the door, Claire turned to him. I love you. I love Mia. I love this life. None of that changes because I'm getting on a plane. I know. Do you? Really? Because I need you to believe I'm coming back. That this isn't me choosing the company over you. I believe you. Ryan kissed her, long and thorough. Go save your company. We'll hold down the fort. She left in a blur of urgent activity, Jennifer coordinating logistics via phone while Marcus drove to the airport. Ryan stood in their doorway, watching the car disappear, then turned to face the house that suddenly felt too quiet. Mia stayed in her room for the rest of the morning. Ryan let her process, knowing from experience that grief and fear needed space before they were ready to be addressed. At lunch, he knocked on her door. Not hungry? She called. I made grilled cheese, your favorite? Silence. Then, okay. She came down red-eyed and subdued, ate half her sandwich without speaking. Ryan waited her out, learned patience from 3 years of single-parenting a child processing enormous loss. She's not coming back, is she? Mia said finally. She is. She promised. Mom promised too, promised she'd be at my play. Promised she'd teach me to ride a bike, promised lots of things. Ryan's throat tightened. Mom didn't break those promises on purpose, honey. She died. That's different from Claire traveling for work. But the leaving is the same. One day she's here, next day she's gone, and I'm supposed to just be okay with it. You don't have to be okay with it. You can be angry and scared and sad, but also know that Claire is coming back. She didn't leave because she doesn't love us. She left because people in Singapore need her help. Mia pushed her sandwich around her plate. What if something happens to her like it happened to Mom? What if her plane crashes, or she gets sick, or she just decides she likes Singapore better than us? The questions were 9-year-old specific, but the fear underneath was universal. The terror that love wasn't permanent, that people you counted on would disappear without warning, leaving holes nothing could fill. I can't promise nothing bad will happen, Ryan said carefully. Life doesn't work that way. But I can promise that Claire loves you, that she's thinking about you right now, probably wishing she was here helping with your science fair instead of on a plane, that she'll call tonight like she promised, and that even when she's far away, she's still part of our family. Family doesn't leave. Sometimes family has to leave temporarily to take care of responsibilities. That doesn't make them less family. Remember when Aunt Kate went to help Grandma last year and was gone for 2 weeks? She was still family. She still loved us. She just had to be somewhere else for a little while. Mia considered this. Will you help me with my presentation, since Claire can't? Absolutely. We'll make it so good that Claire will be sad she missed the practice sessions. They spent the afternoon working on Mia's science fair presentation about renewable energy. Ironic, Ryan thought, given that Claire's company literally manufactured renewable energy technology. Mia had built a small wind turbine model that actually generated electricity, clever and ambitious for a 4th grader. They practiced her speech, refined her explanations, made posters with facts and figures. This is really good work, Mia. Claire's going to be so proud when she sees it. If she sees it, she might still be in Singapore. Then we'll video call her and show her. Either way, she'll see it. That evening, Claire called via video from a hotel room in Singapore. She looked exhausted, still in the clothes she'd worn on the plane, but her face lit up when Mia appeared on screen. How was your day, sweetheart? Okay. Mia was guarded, not meeting the camera directly. Daddy helped me with my science fair stuff. I'm so glad. Can you show me what you've been working on? Reluctantly, Mia demonstrated her wind turbine, explained her hypothesis about optimal blade angles. Claire listened with full attention, asked intelligent questions, praised Mia's problem-solving. Gradually, Mia thawed. When are you coming home? She asked finally. I'm not sure yet. The damage is worse than we initially thought, but I'm working as fast as I can to fix things so I can get back to you. I miss you already. I miss you too. Small voice, reluctant admission. After Mia went to bed, Ryan took the laptop to talk to Claire privately. How bad is it really? He asked. Claire rubbed her eyes. Catastrophic. The entire production line is destroyed. We're looking at months of rebuilding, millions in losses, contracts we can't fulfill. The board is panicking. Investors are asking questions, and I'm the only one who can navigate this. What are your options? Rebuild here, which takes time we don't have. Relocate production to another facility, which is expensive and complicated. Or accept the losses, compensate clients for breached contracts, and take the financial hit. Claire's laugh was bitter. There are no good options, just varying degrees of bad. What does your gut tell you? That I should relocate production temporarily while we rebuild. It's expensive, but it maintains client relationships and keeps our reputation intact. Long-term investment over short-term savings. Sounds smart. It also means I'll be here coordinating for at least 2 weeks, maybe 3, missing Mia's science fair, missing our life together, proving everyone right who said I couldn't balance both worlds. Ryan heard the anguish in her voice. You're not proving anyone right, you're doing your job. That's allowed. Is it? Because it feels like I'm failing everyone. The board wants me solving this yesterday. You and Mia need me home. I can't be in both places, can't satisfy everyone's needs. But then satisfy the most urgent need first. Fix the Singapore crisis. Mia and I will be here when you're done. You sound very certain. I am certain, because I know you're coming back. This isn't you abandoning us. This is you handling an emergency with the plan to return as soon as humanly possible. There's a difference. Claire was quiet for a moment. I needed to hear that. Jennifer keeps trying to extend my trip, add more meetings, maximize efficiency since I'm already here. And part of me wants to say yes, wants to solve everything before leaving, but another part is counting hours until I can come home. Listen to that part. Do what needs doing, then come home. Don't let scope creep turn 2 weeks into 2 months. I won't, I promise. They talked for another hour, Claire describing the facility damage in detail, Ryan sharing small moments from their day. When they finally disconnected, Ryan felt the distance like physical weight. 3 months of constant proximity had made separation feel unnatural. The days developed their own rhythm. Morning video calls before Mia's school, evening calls after dinner, texts throughout the day when Claire had breaks between meetings. Ryan and Mia navigated their routine without Claire's presence, noticing the gaps she'd filled without them realizing. She usually made coffee in the mornings, usually helped Mia with math homework, usually suggested dinner options when Ryan was too tired to decide. It's weird without her, Mia said one evening, practicing her presentation for the dozenth time. Yeah, it is. But also we're okay. We're managing. We are. Does that surprise you? Mia thought about it. Kind of. I thought I'd be sadder. I am sad she's gone, but it's different from when Mom died. Then it felt like the world ended. Now it just feels like Claire's away and will come back. That's weird too. Ryan hugged his daughter, grateful for her resilience and insight. That's growth, honey. That's you learning that people can leave temporarily without it meaning they're gone forever. Do you miss her? Every day. Every hour, honestly. But I also trust she's doing what she needs to do and that she's thinking about us while she does it. The science fair arrived on Thursday. Mia presented her wind turbine project with confidence, fielded questions from judges, explained renewable energy principles with the kind of passion that made Ryan's chest swell with pride. He recorded the whole thing on his phone, sent the video to Claire. She called immediately despite it being 3 a.m, Singapore time. That was incredible, she said, voice thick with emotion. Mia, you were amazing. Your explanations were so clear and your project was brilliant. I wished you were here, Mia said, but without accusation. Just honest statement. Me too, sweetheart. I'm so sorry I missed it in person, but I watched every second and I'm so proud of you. When are you coming home? 3 more days. I finalized the relocation plan today. Once I ensure the new facility managers understand the protocols, I'm on a plane home. Promise? Promise. Friday, Saturday, Sunday crawled past. Ryan and Mia deep cleaned the house, prepared Claire's favorite foods, made welcome home signs that Mia decorated with elaborate drawings of the three of them, plus a dog they still didn't have. Should we get a dog before Claire comes back? Mia asked, as a surprise. That's a family decision. We all need to agree on it together. But Claire would love a dog. She said so. Then we'll discuss it when she's home and get one together if everyone agrees. Not as a surprise. Sunday evening, Ryan and Mia drove to the airport to pick up Claire. Her flight landed at 8, and they waited at arrivals with Mia bouncing on her toes in excitement. When Claire finally appeared, dragging luggage and looking wrung out from 17 hours of travel, Mia launched herself at her. Claire dropped everything to catch her, holding tight while Mia babbled about the science fair and school and everything Claire had missed. I watched all your videos, Claire said, kissing the top of Mia's head. Every single one Ryan sent. You kept me company while I was so far away. Did you fix everything? Mostly, enough that other people can handle the rest while I'm here. Ryan pulled Claire into his arms, breathed in her familiar scent beneath the airport smell and travel exhaustion. Welcome home. I'm sorry I was gone so long. You're back now. That's what matters. The drive home was filled with Mia's chatter, Claire's exhausted but genuine responses. At the house, Mia showed Claire every detail she'd missed. The A she got on her math test, the new book she'd started, the reorganization of her science equipment. Finally, after Mia reluctantly went to bed, Ryan and Claire collapsed on the couch together. I was terrified the whole time, Claire admitted. Terrified you'd realize life was easier without me. That my leaving proved I couldn't actually balance both worlds. That I'd come back to find everything changed. The only thing that changed is we missed you. A lot. Ryan kissed her temple. How do you feel? About how you handled the crisis? Competent? Relieved? Exhausted? Claire leaned into him. I did what needed doing. Made hard decisions, satisfied the board, salvaged client relationships. Set up systems so this doesn't happen again. But the whole time I was counting days until I could come home. That's never happened before. Usually when I'm managing a crisis, I'm fully present in it. This time, part of me was always here. Is that bad? No. It's different. It's what happens when you have something worth coming home to. Claire turned to face him. I need to tell you something. While I was in Singapore, the board made me an offer. They want me to stay on as CEO for 5 more years. Significant compensation increase, full operational control, everything I would have wanted a year ago. Ryan's stomach dropped. What did you tell them? That I'd discuss it with my family and give them an answer in 2 weeks. She took his hand. Ryan, I don't want it. I don't want 5 more years of crisis management and constant travel and putting work before everything else. I want the succession plan we already discussed. I want to transition to chairman, hire someone who actually wants to be CEO, and I want to come home to you and Mia without constantly being pulled away. You're sure? That's a lot to walk away from. I'm not walking away. I'm choosing what matters more. The company will survive without me as CEO. Better probably with someone fully committed to the role. But this family, you and Mia, that only works if I'm actually present, and I want to be present. Ryan kissed her deep and thorough, pouring 3 weeks of missing her into the connection. When they pulled apart, Claire was smiling. I love you, she said. I love our life. I love that Mia made welcome home signs, and that you picked me up at the airport, and that coming home to this house felt better than any luxury hotel. I love that I have something worth coming back to. We love you too, both of us, completely. The next morning, Ryan woke to find Claire already up, sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop and phone. For a moment, fear spiked. Was she back to constant work, back to the pattern she'd been trying to break? Then he noticed she was video calling someone, and her screen showed the Rowan Enterprises conference room. I appreciate the offer, she was saying, voice firm and professional. But my answer is no. I'm committed to the transition timeline we established. I'll remain as CEO through the next fiscal year to ensure stability, Then I'm moving to chairman as planned. If that doesn't work for the board, they're welcome to begin searching for my replacement immediately." Ryan couldn't hear the response, but he watched Claire's expression remain resolute. "I understand your concerns, but I'm not the same person who built this company 20 years ago. I have different priorities now, and I've learned that a CEO who's actually balanced is more effective than one who's always available but burning out. My decision is final." She ended the call, closed her laptop, and noticed Ryan watching from the doorway. "Good morning," she said. "I decided not to wait 2 weeks. Why drag out a decision I'd already made?" "How did they take it?" "About as well as expected. Concerned, frustrated, trying to change my mind. But I'm done being convinced I'm indispensable. The company will adapt, and I'll still be involved as chairman, just not consuming my entire existence." Mia appeared, still in pajamas, and climbed into Claire's lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Are you staying home today?" "I am, and tomorrow, and every day this week except Wednesday when I have one unavoidable board meeting." "Can we go to the farmer's market? We haven't gone in 3 weeks." "We can absolutely go to the farmer's market." They spent the day doing magnificently ordinary things. Farmer's market where they bought overpriced strawberries and fresh bread. Grocery shopping where Mia lobbied intensely for Lucky Charms, and Claire negotiated down to a healthier cereal with minimal sugar. Home to make lunch together, all three of them crowded in the kitchen while Mia directed operations like a tiny general. In the afternoon, they walked to the neighborhood park. Mia played on the equipment while Ryan and Claire sat on a bench watching. "I've been thinking about the dog situation," Claire said. "The dog we don't have?" "The dog Mia desperately wants and has been campaigning for with increasing sophistication." Claire smiled. "What if we made it a family project? Research breeds together, visit shelters, make the decision as a unit." "You're seriously considering adding a dog to this chaos?" "I'm seriously considering making this house feel even more like home. And home includes a dog that Mia can grow up with, that we can train together, that becomes part of our family story." Ryan thought about Sarah, about how she'd always wanted a dog, but they'd never had the right timing or space or resources. About how Mia had begged for a pet since kindergarten. About how this house, their house, had the yard and the stability and the love to support one more family member. "Okay," he said, "let's get a dog." Mia overheard from the swings and came running. "Really? We can really get a dog?" "We can really look for a dog," Ryan clarified. "As a family, we all have to agree on which one." The research phase consumed the next 2 weeks. Mia made spreadsheets comparing breeds, listing pros and cons of different sizes and temperaments. Claire contacted local shelters and rescue organizations. Ryan researched training methods and veterinary care costs. They visited 3 shelters before finding the right fit: a 2-year-old golden retriever mix named Scout, who'd been surrendered when his previous family moved overseas. He was gentle with Mia, tolerated Claire's inexperienced handling, and seemed to intuitively understand he was being evaluated for an important position. "Can we bring him home?" Mia asked, already in love. Ryan and Claire exchanged glances. "What do you think?" Ryan asked. "I think he's perfect," Claire said. "I think he belongs with us." They brought Scout home on a Saturday, watched him explore the house and yard with tail-wagging enthusiasm. Mia followed him everywhere, explaining their house rules and showing him her room. Claire sat on the porch steps, looking overwhelmed. "We have a dog," she said. "We're the kind of family that has a dog." "We are," Ryan confirmed, sitting beside her. "How does that feel?" "Surreal. Wonderful. Like I've stepped into someone else's life, except it's actually mine." She leaned against him. "A year ago, I was sleeping in hotel rooms and eating catered meals and couldn't remember the last time I'd done something just because it brought joy instead of advancing some strategic objective. Now I'm sitting on a porch watching a 9-year-old play with a dog in a yard we own, in a house we renovated together, and I can't imagine wanting to be anywhere else." "No regrets about turning down the board's offer?" "None. They'll find someone excellent to be CEO. Someone who actually wants to dedicate their life to quarterly earnings and shareholder value. I did that for 20 years. I'm done." "What do you want instead?" Claire was quiet, watching Mia and Scout race across the yard. "I want to be present. I want to actually know my neighbors instead of just living near them." I want to volunteer at Mia's school and understand what's happening in her daily life. I want to cook dinner with you instead of reviewing reports. I want to build something meaningful that isn't measured in market capitalization. That sounds nice. It sounds terrifying. I've defined myself by professional achievement for so long. Being Claire Rowan, CEO, was my entire identity. Learning to be just Claire, person who lives in Seattle and has a family and owns a dog, that's uncharted territory. Ryan took her hand. We'll navigate it together, all of us, making it up as we go, figuring out what works, building something that fits our actual lives instead of some external expectation of what we should be. That evening, after Mia and Scout were both exhausted and asleep, Ryan found Claire in her office, staring at her computer. What are you working on? My resignation letter? Well, transition plan announcement. I want to tell the company before rumors start circulating. She turned the screen so he could see. Too formal? Not formal enough? Ryan read the carefully crafted message explaining her decision to transition to chairman, her confidence in the company's future, her commitment to ensuring smooth succession. It was professional and warm, confident without being arrogant. It's perfect. It sounds like you. Claire hit send before she could second-guess herself. There, done. No taking it back now. Regrets? Ask me tomorrow. Right now, I'm too terrified to feel regret. But morning brought relief instead of panic. Claire's inbox filled with responses. Some supportive, some concerned, some trying to change her mind. She answered each thoughtfully, then closed her laptop and made pancakes with Mia while Scout supervised hopefully from his bed. Are you sad about not being CEO anymore? Mia asked, adding chocolate chips to the batter against all nutritional advice. A little, Claire admitted. It's been a big part of my life, but mostly I'm excited about what comes next, about having more time for things that matter. Like us? Exactly like you. The transition period was predictably chaotic. Claire spent 3 months training her successor, a brilliant woman named Patricia, who'd been running their European division and actually wanted the CEO role with its demands and pressure. Claire found herself surprised by how easily she could let go, how much relief accompanied each responsibility she transferred. I thought I'd feel like I was losing part of myself, she told Ryan one evening, but instead I feel like I'm finally becoming whole, like I'd been fragmented across too many obligations, and now I'm consolidating into one integrated person. How does integrated Claire differ from fragmented Claire? Integrated Claire actually sleeps 7 hours a night. She remembers what day it is without checking her calendar. She knows Mia's friends' names and their parents' names and which kids have nut allergies. Claire smiled. She's learning to bake bread, and it's terrible, but she's trying. She takes Scout for walks in the morning before the day gets chaotic. She's building a life instead of just managing a schedule. 6 months after returning from Singapore, Claire officially became chairman. The company threw a gala in her honor. Ryan wore the tux Claire had bought him, Mia wore a purple dress that matched her room, and they watched Claire give a speech about leadership and legacy and the importance of knowing when to evolve. I built something remarkable at Rowan Enterprises, she said, standing before 300 employees and board members. But I've learned that building a company is only one kind of achievement. Building a life that actually feels worth living? That's harder. That's braver. That requires different courage. Kate attended the gala, approached Ryan during the reception. She really did it. Walked away from being CEO. She didn't walk away. She evolved. Same thing, essentially. Kate studied Claire across the room, talking animatedly with Mia about something. I was wrong about her, about whether she could choose you over the company. I'm sorry I doubted. You were protecting us. I appreciate that, even when it was hard to hear. Are you happy? Ryan looked at Claire, at Mia, at the life they'd built from coffee shop interventions and renovation projects and daily choices to keep showing up. Incredibly. More than I thought possible. Good. You deserve that. You all do. As chairman, Claire's schedule was dramatically lighter. She attended monthly board meetings, provided strategic guidance, represented the company at major events. But the daily operations, the constant crises, the endless demands on her time, those belong to Patricia now. I don't miss it, Claire said one Saturday morning, drinking coffee on the porch while Mia and Scout played in the yard. I thought I would, but I don't. What do you do with all your free time? I'm on the parent council at Mia's school, volunteering at the food bank on Thursdays, taking an actual cooking class because my current skill level is embarrassing, reading books for pleasure instead of business insights, existing as a person instead of a position. Ryan wrapped an arm around her. Look at you. Being normal. Is this normal? Because it feels revolutionary. That's because you've never done it before. For the rest of us, this is just life. They fell into easy silence, watching Seattle wake up around them. Morrison had promoted Ryan to shop manager, which came with better pay and more flexibility. He'd been able to cut his hours slightly, spending more time home with Mia and Claire. The financial pressure that had defined his post-Sarah life had eased significantly between his raise and Claire's resources, which she'd insisted they merge completely. "It's not your money helping me," she'd said when he'd protested. "It's our money supporting our family. That's what partnership means." Mia was thriving. Her science fair project had won second place, earning her entry into the regional competition. She'd made 2 new friends who shared her enthusiasm for robotics. She'd started calling Claire by name instead of Daddy's girlfriend, a subtle shift that indicated integration rather than addition. "Can I ask you something?" Mia said one evening at dinner, looking between Ryan and Claire with the seriousness that meant she'd been thinking hard about something. "Always," Ryan said. "Are you going to get married, you and Claire?" Ryan and Claire exchanged surprised glances. They'd been living as a family unit for nearly a year, but marriage hadn't been explicitly discussed beyond vague future references. "Would you want us to?" Claire asked carefully. Mia considered. "I think so. Because then Claire would officially be family, not like legal family, real family, the kind that doesn't leave." "I'm not leaving regardless of whether we get married," Claire said gently. "Marriage doesn't make love more real or commitment more serious. It's just official paperwork." "But it matters," Mia insisted. "It means you're choosing to stay forever. Not just until it gets hard, but actually forever." Later, after Mia was asleep, Ryan and Claire returned to the conversation. "I hadn't thought about marriage," Claire admitted. "I assumed you'd want to wait longer, that we were still in the building phase." "We're always in the building phase. That's what relationships are, constant building." Ryan took her hand. "But Mia has a point. About choosing to stay forever. About making it official. Are you proposing?" "Not yet. But I'm saying I want to. Soon. When the moment feels right." Claire's smile was radiant. "I'll say yes, just so you know. Whenever you ask, my answer is yes." Ryan had been carrying Sarah's engagement ring in his bedside table for 3 years, unable to sell it or store it or decide what to do with it. That night, he pulled it out, studied the simple diamond that he'd saved for months to buy when they were barely 23. This ring represented his past, his first love, the foundation of everything he'd built. But Claire deserved her own symbol, her own moment, her own ring that wasn't weighted with someone else's history. He took the ring to a jeweler the next day, explained the situation. The jeweler, a kind woman probably in her 60s, listened thoughtfully. "What if we redesign it?" she suggested. "Keep the diamond, that's your history, your connection to your daughter's mother, but create a new setting that represents your future. Honor the past while building something new." The idea was perfect. Ryan worked with the jeweler to design a ring that incorporated Sarah's diamond alongside 2 smaller stones, representing the 3 of them, him, Claire, Mia, building family together. The setting was modern but warm, beautiful but not ostentatious. "Your late wife would approve," the jeweler said when showing him the finished product. "This honors her memory while celebrating your new love." "That's exactly right." Ryan waited for the perfect moment. Not the grandest or most elaborate, but the one that felt most true to their relationship. It came on a Wednesday morning, 3 weeks after Mia's question about marriage. They were at Cornerstone Cafe, sitting at the same corner table where everything had started. Claire was reading news on her tablet, Ryan was drinking coffee, and the moment was so beautifully ordinary that it felt sacred. "Claire," she looked up. "Hmm?" Ryan pulled out the ring box, set it on the table between them. "This is where it started. Where I saw you scared and decided to intervene. Where we had our first real conversation. Where we built the foundation of everything that came after." Claire's hand flew to her mouth. I'm not smooth or practiced at this, but I love you. I love the life we've built. I love that you chose us over corporate expectations, that you learned to cook even though you're terrible at it, that you help Mia with homework and take Scout for walks and make our house feel like home. Ryan opened the box, showed her the ring. The center diamond was Sarah's, but I had it redesigned to represent all of us, you, me, Mia, building something new while honoring what came before. Will you marry me? Claire was crying, nodding before she could speak. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. Ryan slipped the ring on her finger and Claire laughed through tears at how perfectly it fit. Around them, the cafe erupted in applause. Apparently their entire conversation had been overheard and witnessed. The barista brought them free coffee, grinning. An elderly couple at the next table congratulated them warmly. This is perfect, Claire said, studying the ring. I love that you included Sarah's diamond, that you made space for all of us in this symbol. She'd want you to have it, want us to be happy. We are happy. Claire kissed him, soft and thorough, tasting like coffee and tears and joy. We're so incredibly happy. They told Mia that evening. She screamed, jumped on both of them, demanded to see the ring approximately 40 times, and immediately began planning a wedding that involved extensive purple decorations and Scout as ring bearer. Can I be in the wedding? She asked. Like, officially part of it? You're the most important part, Claire said. This isn't just Ryan and me getting married. It's the three of us becoming an official family. We want you to be part of the ceremony. The wedding planning was blissfully simple. They chose a date 6 months out, sent invitations to 50 people, and rented the community center near their house. Claire's company offered to host an elaborate event, but they declined. This isn't a corporate affair, Claire said firmly. This is family and friends witnessing us make promises. It doesn't need to be fancy. Mia helped choose flowers, purple, obviously. Claire and Ryan wrote their own vows, spending weeks refining the words that would capture what they meant to each other. They asked Kate to officiate, Morrison to stand as Ryan's best man, and Jennifer to stand with Claire. The morning of the wedding, Ryan woke early in the house they'd built together. Claire had spent the night at a hotel per Mia's insistence that it was bad luck to see each other before the ceremony. The house felt too quiet without her. Mia appeared in his doorway. You nervous? A little. Good nervous. Mom would be happy, you know, that you found Claire, that you're not alone anymore. Ryan pulled his daughter into a hug. How'd you get so wise? I had a really good dad teaching me. The ceremony was exactly what they'd envisioned, small, intimate, focused on what mattered. Mia stood between them during the vows, holding a bouquet that matched Claire's. Kate cried while reading the ceremony script. Morrison beamed proudly. Jennifer dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. When it came time for vows, Ryan spoke first. Claire, when I met you, I was surviving, going through motions, protecting my heart, afraid to risk feeling anything too deeply. You saw through that. Saw me, not the armor I wore. You demanded I show up fully, live completely, build something real instead of just getting by. You love my daughter like she's yours. You chose us over everything else you'd built. You made our house a home and our small family complete. I promise to keep showing up, keep choosing you, keep building this life we're creating together. Claire's voice shook when she spoke. Ryan, you taught me what home feels like, what it means to be seen as a whole person instead of a position or a resource. You gave me Mia, who taught me that love expands to include whatever you make space for. You gave me mornings at Cornerstone and evenings on the porch, and ordinary moments that matter more than any achievement I've accumulated. I promise to keep choosing this life, this family, over anything that asks me to sacrifice what we've built. I promise to keep learning, keep growing, keep becoming someone worthy of the extraordinary gift of being loved by both of you. When Kate pronounced them married, Mia cheered loudest. Scout barked from where he waited outside with Morrison's wife. The small gathering applauded as Ryan kissed Claire, both of them crying and laughing simultaneously. The reception was potluck in the community center, neighbors and friends bringing dishes, sharing stories, celebrating with genuine warmth. Claire danced with Mia while Ryan watched, thinking about how far they'd all come. From that first morning in a cafe to this moment, married and surrounded by chosen family, building something that honored the past while embracing the future. Late in the evening, Kate pulled Ryan aside. "I was wrong about her," she said again. "About whether she'd stay, whether this would work. I'm glad I was wrong." "Me too. Sarah would be proud of you, of how you've honored her memory while building something new. That takes courage. Grief taught me things, like how love doesn't run out, how hearts expand instead of dividing, how you can hold space for multiple truths, missing what you lost while celebrating what you've found." Kate hugged him tight. "Be happy, Ryan. You've earned it." Months later, on a random Tuesday morning, Ryan woke to find Claire already up, making breakfast, while Mia set the table and Scout supervised hopefully. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows, illuminating dust motes and coffee steam and the beautiful chaos of their ordinary life. "Morning," Claire said, kissing him as he entered. "Sleep okay?" "Great. What's all this?" "Just breakfast. Mia wanted to practice her pancake-making skills, and I'm allegedly supervising." "They're a little burned," Mia reported cheerfully, "but edible." They ate together at their kitchen table, talking about the day ahead. Mia had a field trip, Claire had a board meeting, Ryan had a full schedule at Morrison's. Normal day, nothing remarkable. The kind of ordinary that used to feel empty but now felt full. After Mia left for school and Claire departed for her meeting, Ryan stood in their kitchen drinking coffee and thinking about the journey that had brought them here. About a woman being harassed in a cafe and a mechanic who couldn't look away. About courage in small moments and big decisions. About building something honest from broken pieces. His phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "Love you. See you tonight. Don't forget we're trying that new recipe." Ryan smiled, typed back, "Love you too. I'll grab ingredients on the way home." Such simple words, such ordinary exchanges. But underneath them lived everything that mattered. Commitment and choice, presence and partnership, the daily decision to keep showing up for each other. That evening, the three of them cooked dinner together in their kitchen, Scout underfoot, hoping for dropped food. They laughed at Claire's terrible chopping technique, at Mia's elaborate explanations of why certain spices work together, at Scout's eternal optimism about human food sharing. After dinner, they walked Scout around the neighborhood. Neighbors waved, asked about Mia's school project, commented on the weather. Normal conversations, ordinary interactions, the fabric of community they'd woven themselves into. That night, after Mia was asleep and Scout was settled in his bed, Ryan and Claire sat on their porch watching Seattle's lights twinkle in the distance. "Do you ever think about how different life would be if you hadn't stopped at Cornerstone that morning?" Claire asked. "Sometimes, but mostly I think about how glad I am that I did." "Me too." Claire leaned against him. "I had everything I thought I wanted, success, money, influence. But I was miserable. Then you appeared and disrupted everything and forced me to reconsider what actually matters." "What does matter?" "This, right here, this porch, this house, this life we've built. Mia sleeping safely upstairs, Scout snoring in the living room, you beside me, all of it, the magnificent ordinary that turned out to be extraordinary all along." Ryan kissed the top of her head. "The mechanic and the billionaire. Just two people who found each other and decided to build something honest, who chose love over fear, presence over success, connection over isolation. Think we'll keep choosing it every day for the rest of our lives? I know we will, because we already have been. Every morning we wake up in this house, every evening we come home to each other, every moment we choose us over everything else that demands our attention. That's the choice, and I'll keep making it, forever." They sat in comfortable silence while the night settled around them. Two people who'd found each other in a coffee shop and built a family from courage and commitment. The future stretched ahead, uncertain and full of possibility, but they'd face it together. Building, choosing, loving, showing up for each other and for the life they'd created. Not perfect, not without challenges, but real and honest and worth every difficult conversation, every compromise, every moment of vulnerability that had brought them here. The magnificent ordinary, the extraordinary choice to keep choosing each other. The family they'd built from broken pieces and brave interventions, and the simple decision to see each other truly. This was home. This was love. This was everything.